There we go. Should be able to hear me now. We're good. Yeah. So just to retell what I just said. Yesterday when I went to go boot up for stream, I turned on OBS and my computer crashed. And then I tried to turn on my computer again. And when it opened up, it said CPU fan failure detected. And so this was not an issue that could be fixed. I was basically out all day working about getting it fixed, right? I ended up having to basically get a whole new computer or put off having any live streams until the middle of the week after next. And so I did have a pre-build. Now I have a custom build. Brand new custom build, but it is a custom build. All right, but that is not what we're here to talk about today. Let me jot down some things really quick. We'll start with our first stream on the new computer. We'll bring up our first guest. Rich Fleck, no, not really. See, I lose more money by not streaming for a week and a half and not putting out videos for a week and a half than I would spending $1,200 on a computer, which is basically what the minimum I could get that is capable of the stream is. So that's just the reality that I live in. All right, let's bring up Gavin. Gavin?
Yeah, so basically, if God isn't real...
Oh my god, why is he so loud? And also, why is he such a child? That was crazy. Jeez. Was he loud to anybody else, or was that just me? Yeah, fortunately I was able to keep the old RAM. It may have just been me. Couldn't hear him on TikTok? Okay. All right, let's bring up Rizzy1 Yad. Yeah, it may have just been me. Rizzy, how's it going?
Good, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can. Let me just set something up really quick. Rizzy, how's it going?
It's going good. How's it going on your end?
I'm doing okay. Rizzy, do you believe in a god?
Yes.
Oh, hold on. For some reason, nobody can hear you on TikTok, I think.
Do you want me to hop down? And
no, I think it's an issue on my end. Okay. Oh, I hate that. Where is my headphones? Give me just 1 sec, okay?
Oh yeah.
I think that YouTube can hear you. Give me some audio. Yeah, YouTube can hear you. Let me just double check something really quick on my end. Okay, so... okay. Speaker for co-hosting creators. Maybe this? Maybe if I do this, go ahead and give me some audio.
Hello.
Still nothing. I don't know why. Let me try. I think I'm gonna try to restart the YouTube live and fix it that way. So I'll be back, everybody. I know that we did just start, but I'll be back in 2 minutes. Yeah. I'll bring you up next. I'll bring you up first. All right, I will be back. YouTube, you guys will be fine, but I just want to make sure that, yeah, we just get this through. We'll get this sorted. I just don't know why it's saying primary speaker, AirPods, device not connected or available. It's probably because I got a new computer, but okay, let's make this the default for now. And then we will add new device. Hopefully we can connect my Bluetooth headphones. Oh, you know what I can do? I can close the TikTok app and reopen it. Give me just a moment. I know YouTube audio is working fine. I know it is. It's just the TikTok audio is always annoying. Let's try that again. Headphones not available. Open. Why are the headphones not available? What if I just select that? Okay, I think that it should be working now. Yeah, it doesn't say not available anymore. Speaker for co-host. I think, oh, that's my face. I think that this should work. All right, let's try this again. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on, well, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope that you guys enjoy the show. All right, hopefully it should be working now. I actually don't really know how to test it without just bringing on a guest. And now I have to activate source. There we go. Okay, well, let's try it. I did say I would bring up Rizzy first, so we'll give Rizzy a minute or so to join up. Take some time. I know you're here, Big Appetite. I know. I did promise Rizzy that Rizzy would get priority, so that's why I'm going to wait for just a minute or so. But welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the technical issues. Hopefully this should be resolved now. I guess restarting the app fixed it. I don't know why that would do it, but that's usually a good guess as to how to fix something. I did now. Oh, wow. I really blew up my mic there. Yep, we're good, Rizzy. At least I hope we're good. We'll see if anybody can hear you. Rizzy, give me a test. Ah, wonderful. Okay, it seems like it's working.
Okay.
Great. So, Rizzy, why is it that I assume you believe in a god?
What was that?
I assume that you believe in a god. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
And why?
I believe it is less likely that the universe is infinite than the universe being finite. And I think from there we can come to a conclusion that a god exists by using some like logical arguments.
Yeah, let's run through them. So let's just grant that for the sake of argument that the universe is finite. Sure. Then what?
Yes. Okay, so basically, do you think it's possible to point at nothing?
Do I think it's possible to point at nothing? I don't think that nothing ever existed.
Okay, so it would be impossible to point at nothing, right?
I guess it seems like a linguistic failing. I mean, I also don't think that you can point at love.
Okay, yeah. So you can't point at love. You can't point at nothing. I'm just trying to confirm.
Yeah. That seems fair.
Okay, you can't point at nothing. So if like say the universe is finite, and I was to point like at the sky, that means I would be pointing to the end of the universe, right?
Oh, well, I don't think that being finite means that there's like an edge.
What do you mean by edge?
Well, I don't think that there's like a boundary that and there's just nothing beyond it. Okay,
so I don't see why that would be the case.
I mean, consider this. Sorry, I don't know why I'm blowing up my mic. Consider this. The surface of the Earth, like the two-dimensional surface of the Earth, is certainly not infinite, right? It is absolutely finite. It has a finite amount of surface area and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And yet, there's not an edge. There's not a boundary. There's no direction that you can point in along the surface of the Earth that would ever lead you to nowhere, that would ever lead you to nothing.
So let me ask you this. If I was to lift my leg off of the ground, would you say that at some point my leg is not like on the earth anymore? Or
Well, it's definitely
what do
not
you
on
mean?
the surface of the Earth, right?
Okay, so let me put it this way. So when you say when you mention the earth, are you talking about like I guess like the sky and everything included, or
No, I mean the surface. So like think of the perspective of an ant, right?
yeah.
An ant walks along the surface of the Earth. That's all they can do. They can't jump. They can't do anything like that. Now, the ant could walk forever and they would never reach nothing. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that the Earth is infinite. It just means that the Earth is curved on itself.
Yeah, so
And so our
I
universe could be
think
like that, is what I'm getting at.
yeah, but no problem. If it's like, let's say if it's like curved or whatever, I don't see how that would mean that there's no like boundary. Like there's a boundary. The earth has some like sort of boundary with what's outside of the earth, right?
Right, but I'm thinking about, so I'm using a lower dimensional analog because it's easier to visualize.
Yeah.
But the point is that the surface of the Earth is a two-dimensional thing, right? You can only move in two directions on the surface of the Earth. So it's a two-dimensional thing. And a two-dimensional thing can be finite, meaning it has like a finite amount of surface area, for example, while also not having any boundaries anywhere. I.e., there's nowhere you can go on the surface of the Earth that is like the edge of the Earth, right? Similarly, you could have our universe be a three-dimensional analog of that, so that there's nowhere you can go in our universe that doesn't loop back in some direction, and yet there's a finite amount of space total.
So I don't see how are you saying that is necessarily the case, or are you just saying it's a possibility that it's the case?
So I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's necessarily the case, but but amongst those cosmologists who think that the universe is finite,
Yeah.
this is the view that they take.
Okay, yeah. I'm inclined to believe that, that's not the case, and I guess if you want, I can explain why.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, because so when you mention like the surface of the earth or whatever, so you're like restricting that to like exclude. So you mentioned two directions, I guess, forward and backward, right?
No, I mean like two directions. There's forward and backward, and then left and right.
Okay.
Like you can
Isn't
travel
that
in like there's two right
oh,
angle
okay,
directions.
I see what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
mean. Yeah. So, but I mean, as soon as we add a third direction, then it becomes obvious that there is a boundary, right?
Well, the surface of the Earth doesn't have a boundary. It just becomes obvious that there's like a third direction. But the point is that you have to use that as an analogy to think about, or to try. I mean, it's impossible to visualize, but to think about what it would be like in 3 dimensions. Imagine in 3 dimensions. So for the ant on the Earth, they can walk forward or backward or left and right, and they will never reach an end. They will just eventually loop back to where they started. You can imagine in the 3-dimensional equivalent of that, you can travel forward and backward or left and right or up and down, and you will never reach the end of the universe. You'll just end up back where you started eventually.
Sure, but regarding the ant example, that's just because of like the ant's perspective or whatever, right? But in reality, we know that it's not the case.
Well,
That
yeah,
this
because the ant
third
only
direction.
lives in essentially a 2-dimensional world, and we live in a 3-dimensional world. But it very well could be the case that our 3-dimensional world has that same kind of curvature property.
Yeah, so I'm saying that just acknowledging that there is a third dimension is enough to make that analogy not work in regards to the universe.
Well, so whether or not there's a third dimension, that doesn't mean that there's a boundary to the two-dimensional surface of the Earth, right?
Yeah, if we only like strictly like think in two dimensions, but I'm saying in
Well, the
actuality
surface of the
there
Earth
are
is
three.
actually two-dimensional. It's a surface. Surfaces are two-dimensional.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about just like the idea of a boundary, right?
Right. But the two-dimensional surface of the Earth does not have any boundaries, regardless of how many dimensions it's in. Like, you could put a two-dimensional surface of, you could put like,
Yeah, definitely.
and so like our three-dimensional universe could have no boundaries despite being finite. And then you could say, oh, well, maybe it's the boundary. Maybe the three-dimensional universe is the boundary of a four-dimensional thing. But that's kind of irrelevant for the point you're making. The point you're making is that you should be able to point in a direction and end up at nothing. But if you're pointing in one of the three dimensions, you would always just end up pointing back at yourself.
One second. So I'm trying to think of a geometry of the universe that would somehow not have the same properties as every other thing in the universe, that if you point away from it, that you're not pointing at itself, right? So like in the case of the Earth, once we add that third dimension, we've established a boundary, correct?
It's not a boundary of the two-dimensional surface.
I'm not talking about the two-dimensional surface.
Right, but I am. That's the whole point of the analogy. I'm using two dimensions to give an analogy for three dimensions.
Yeah, no problem.
So look, if you wanted to use your analogy and say that there is, like, just like how the ant doesn't perceive three dimensions, but there is a third dimension, you could say that we live in a three-dimensional universe, and there is a fourth dimension, but we just can't point in that direction. You could say that, but it's not necessary.
So what I'm trying to say is I think that by acknowledging a third dimension, which is enough to tell us that there's a boundary between Earth and something else, right?
Yeah, so the surface of the Earth is the boundary between the inside of the Earth and the outside of the Earth.
Sure. That is also enough to determine that there is a boundary between, if we take a finite universe model, that there's a boundary between the universe and something else.
I mean, I understand that it's hard to visualize. I can give another analogy if that would help. Have you ever played Pac-Man?
Yeah.
So in Pac-Man, if you go out the left side, you just come back out. You just come back in the right side, right?
Yeah.
So you could imagine that there's like, and if you've played any like scrollers or any sort of like 2D top-down games, usually if you go up to the top, you come out the bottom, and if you go out the side, then you come out the other side.
No, it's the same as the ant
it's very similar. Now just imagine a three-dimensional version.
Imagine
a three-dimensional version of that. You go in one side, you come out the other side. You go in the one side, you come out the other side. There's no issue there, right? Like that seems like an active possibility, and in fact, a lot of people think that that's how our universe is actually shaped.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess I don't want to like just formulate, my argument on the fly. So maybe I'll hop back on some other time.
Okay. Sounds good, Rizzy. Right. Thanks for being here.
Take care, man.
Take care. Yeah, I mean, I understand the trouble. Thinking of like topologically non-trivial three-dimensional spaces is really hard because humans are just not built for that kind of thinking. So that's why we have to use analogies and like mathematics to do it. We have some super chats, and then we'll bring up our next guest. From Demtro with the $2. So are you pumping again? CPU pump. Well, I didn't replace the CPU pump. I replaced the computer. I kept the RAM, I kept the GPU, I kept the hard drive, but everything else got replaced because that was the only way I could get a working PC for today. From Episteme Alethea with the 200 Indian rupees. Are you a conscious realist? If no, how do you solve the claim of physical reality existing independent of the mind as claimed by materialism? How do you see the claim of consciousness as fundamental? I don't see consciousness as fundamental. So there's that. I don't know all of the implied views of being a conscious realist, so I'm gonna remain agnostic about that because I haven't looked into that specific language before. Generally, my view is that it seems at least plausible that consciousness can arise from physical stuff. Now, it could be physical structures, so it's not like that like it's physical particles, so you don't necessarily have to be a materialist. But yeah, I am of the view that consciousness comes from like the brain. From Kelly Schur with the $5, first coin for new computer, Dr. Blitz. I appreciate that. That's really kind of you. And from Eraboros with the $5, friendly reminder that penitence is stored in the balls. Indeed it is. Dr. Wackadoodle sent 5 Dr. Blitz Debunks gift memberships. That's huge. By the way, I should explain. The gift memberships, whether they're on the main YouTube channel at BlitzPhD or on the horizontal channel at Dr. Blitz Debunks, you will get access to 2 things. You will get access to emojis, which is cool for chat. There's some fun emojis in there, and I'm working on making more. The second one is you get access to my debate notes. My debate notes have a lot of the arguments that I make, a lot of the counter arguments that I make, sources, facts, claims, diagrams, papers, all sorts of stuff that's super handy if you ever get into one of these debates yourself. So you get access to those if you become a member, and it's like $4 or $5 a month. So consider it. And from Garain with the $2, ants can jump. Not these ones. I do have a $50 Cash App from Grimlock. Thank you so much, Grimlock, for happy to see you today. Hydration. Indeed, hydration. I'm going to drink some Gatorade. Got to keep my fluids up, my electrolytes. You know what they say. Something, electrolytes, something. Anyway, let's move on to our next guest, shall we? Let's talk to Deist Donkey. Deist Donkey, how's it going?
Yo, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
It's going pretty well. It's pretty early in the morning for me. How about yourself?
It's pretty normal for me to be up and streaming at this time. So, Donkey, can I call you Donkey?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so Donkey, do you believe in a god?
Yeah, I'm a deist. Yeah, you can see by my name. But,
yeah, I kind of guessed, but I figured I'd ask.
Yeah.
And so, what properties does this this deity that you believe in have?
Yeah. So it's like conscious, all powerful, all knowing, these type of things.
Okay, but it's not necessarily all good, right?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Okay. So it's not triomni, it's biomni, if you will. Now, why should I believe in that?
Yeah, there's an argument I like. It relies like the normal contingency argument, right? For God.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. It relies like on a weak PSR, so instead of like a strong PSR, I like to run like a weaker PSR.
Sure.
And then so I can just give the argument, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. Premise 1 is just
hold on, I'm just gonna write this down as you go. Just so that everybody can see it.
Yeah. Premise 1 is just contingent things exist.
I don't know why that's so high up there. Contingent things exist. Got it.
Yeah. Premise 2 is contingent things are possibly explained, or we could, and the modality of possibility there is metaphysical modality. So like it's metaphysically possible. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like metaphysically possible that the contingent things are all explained. The only thing that can explain all like the set of contingent things in that possible world is a necessary being. The
set of contingent things in a possible world?
In the possible world in which they're possibly explained, like in premise 2. Does that make sense? Or?
Sure. Yeah. The only things that can explain the set of contingent the only thing that can explain the set of contingent things in that possible world
is a necessary thing. Yeah.
Is a necessary thing. Okay.
And then I think that's it. So conclusion, possibly a necessary being exists.
And so just to be clear, you mean a necessary thing, right?
Sure. So, well, when I say being, I don't mean to. I just mean something of ontology is what I normally. I don't mean like
sure. That's fine. Okay, but clearly this doesn't get you to deism, right?
Yeah, it doesn't get you to like consciousness or anything like that, but it gets me to like
It
a
doesn't even
necessary
get you
foundation.
to all powerful. It doesn't get you to knowledge. It doesn't get you to anything.
Yeah, but well, it gets me to the foundation, and I feel like you can make an argument about like all. It doesn't get you to all knowledge, but I guess you can make like an argument for like being all powerful from that. Like if you're like the foundation of everything.
I mean, suppose
Yeah.
that I just grant that this is the case, that there is that there is something that's necessary. Okay.
Okay.
What then?
Oh, you just grant it? Okay.
I mean, I mean, we like for the sake of argument, why not? How does this get you to deism?
Okay. Yeah, and I also take the view that consciousness is like fundamental, right?
Oh,
So like
but
I
I
would
don't
run
take that
something
view.
like
So why should I take that view?
okay, sure. What do you have a view on consciousness, or do you think it's immaterial? Are you sympathetic to it being immaterial or no?
No, not really.
Okay.
I take the view that it's probably emergent from like brain stuff.
Emergent. Okay.
Yeah.
But like the emergent thing is immaterial, or it would be like still like,
Well,
or
I mean,
it's grounded in the physical.
So
Yeah.
I have a hard time like. So I would say that the consciousness has whatever material or immaterial properties that like Microsoft Word has. Insofar as like Microsoft Word is like obviously emergent from, you know, transistors being flipped in certain ways, right? But Microsoft Word isn't like a thing that you can poke and touch. So whether or not you want to call it material or immaterial, I'm not so concerned about like what words we use. I would just say that consciousness has the same kind of properties, whether material or immaterial, as like Microsoft Word. As in
Okay.
it's like emergent from some underlying physical thing, and it's fully describable by physical stuff.
Okay. I mean, there's a bunch of arguments I like for the material. I'm just trying to give me a second. I'm trying to think of which one. Do you know anything about mereology?
Yeah. Well, I
Oh,
don't
you
know a
do?
lot.
Okay.
I don't know a lot, but I know enough to hold probably a naive position. So
Okay. So my favorite argument for like the immateriality of consciousness, or that like I'm a immaterial conscious being, would be something like the only material things that exist, like I'm a mereological nihilist, so the only material things that exist are simples. I exist, I am not a simple, therefore I'm immaterial. Something like that is compelling to me.
yeah. So I mean. Oh, okay. I see the argument. Yeah. So I also take a sort of mereological nihilist point of view, but my point of view is just that like I don't exist in the same way that like a simple exists. I just am like a different kind of thing.
Yeah. So.
And so
I agree.
I don't have an issue. Like if I'm a mereological nihilist, I don't have a problem saying that like a table exists. It's just when I say a table exists, what that means is just that like there is a bunch of stuff that's arranged in a particular way, and it has some sort of, you know, properties that perhaps the underlying stuff didn't have.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I think that too. So I think there can be like emergent properties, right? I would just say the only fundamental material things, or like the only fundamental things that exist like would be like these simples, or like, as far as like
Yeah, I mean, but I'm fine saying that. Like I don't think that I exist in the same way that like I don't know, a quark exists.
Yeah, but the problem is that
because like clearly I don't exist in the same way. You can't split up a quark, at least as far as we know. You can't split up a quark and like look at what it's made out of. But like you can definitely split me up and look at what I'm made out of. Like you can take out part of my brain and I will be a different person.
yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds right. But like the problem is that if you don't have composites in your ontology, then you don't have persistent conditions either. So if you want to say that you're the same person throughout time, like I take tables just to be like social constructions, right? I don't think there's like distinct boundaries between like what makes a table. It's just like things. It's just like symbols that like compose or that look like table wise, and then we just label it a table. Is basically the idea.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the problem if you just say we are, what you are is just like some emergent property. The problem is that you don't have persistent conditions. The emergent properties that you are, like the simples would like change, and then like every single second.
Why can't I talk about the emergent properties remaining consistent over time?
Because like the simples that make up the emergent properties would change.
Okay, but the properties don't have to change, and despite the simples changing.
Yeah, but the emergent properties are grounded in the in the simples, right?
Well,
or they
I
come
don't
from the
take it. I
symbols?
don't take it that it's grounded in the specific symbols that make it up. I take it that they're grounded in the relationships
Okay, like
that
a
exist.
functional,
Yeah,
like a functional view. Okay.
like sort of I mean, like sort of structuralist, maybe.
Yeah, but does the structure does the structure interact with the world, or like does the structure like do anything over and above the symbols?
Does the structure do anything?
Yeah, over and
No,
above.
but I think that the structure
Mhm.
probably is what the emergent things are.
The structure is with the okay.
So I mean, I guess you could say that, but like I would treat the structure as like a mediator between, you know, higher level emergent properties and like the lower level symbols.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we're just sneaking composites back in though if we're positing these like causally inert structures that like don't do anything above the symbols.
Well, I mean, but they're
Yeah.
entirely composed, right? And I'm not sure it's even correct to say that like they have like their own ontology. They're just like another layer that is useful for talking between the emergent stuff and the symbols. And so like if it's whether or not the structures are there that determines whether or not there's the emergent thing. You can change out the symbols, and as long as the structure remains, as long as you have the same kind of structure, then the emergent thing can remain. That doesn't seem like you're throwing away. It doesn't seem like you're adding composite things back in. It just seems like that you're talking about arrangements of stuff in a perhaps more sophisticated way.
Okay. Okay. No, I see. I kind of see that. Okay. So, but would you say that anything that instantiates like the structure would be conscious in that case then?
Anything that instantiates the structure, like for example, if I just took like an array of simples, and then and arrange them in exactly the way that my brain is, and
Exactly,
gave it blood and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Have you heard of like the China brain like thought experiment?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that's like one problem I have. Like that just seems like super counterintuitive to me. The idea that you can have like second like you can just layer if anything can instantiate it, there's no reason why conscious beings can also instantiate like the same structure. That's like one reason. Yeah, that seems counterintuitive.
Well, but it's not
to
the
me.
same structure, right?
What do you mean?
I mean, for what it's worth, I think that like it would be counterintuitive that like you could just like if you took conscious beings. So the Chinese room. I'll explain it for those who don't know.
Wait. I'm not. No. It's not the Chinese. I'm talking about like a China. So like imagine like we have a bunch of conscious agents and we arrange them. Like we take every person in China and we arrange them in a way that their functional structure matches the functional structure of like a brain. Right. I feel like under a functional view, you would be. Is that what you meant? Oh, I thought you were talking about the Chinese.
So I thought you said the Chinese room.
It's like China brain experiment. Chinese room is like where you have like the Chinese.
Okay. I just misheard you then. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, look, I would be obligated to say, yeah, like you could just have like large scale consciousness arising from like that kind of stuff. The only difference is that like there's not enough people in China to do that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, like my view is that, you know, it's not clear to me why we would think that, and just to perhaps ground us in a little bit more perhaps reasonable reality, is like it's not clear that if you give it 10 years we won't have like genuinely conscious like LLMs or something, right?
Yeah.
Give them enough like I just don't even know how you would tell that they're not.
That's fair. Yeah, there's an epistemic problem, even with like you and me.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And so like the only way that I can figure that I can reasonably say that you're conscious is because I guess there's kind of two ways. One is that like you're like me and I just have some sort of bias. I think that I'm conscious, and so like you're like me, and so reasonable to say that you're conscious. But that's probably not well justified because like, you know, I could make like a simulacrum and then it could like walk and talk and just have like really unsophisticated code or whatever, and then it probably wouldn't be conscious. So instead I would say, well, when I poke your arm, the same region in your brain fires as the region in my brain fires, and when you cry about, you know, Mufasa dying in The Lion King, the same region in your brain fires as the region in my brain. And so like I figure that like with enough testing at least, it's reasonable to say that like the structures that are going on in your brain are similar enough to the structures in my brain that I could reasonably conclude that like we have the same thing going on upstairs.
Okay. Yeah, and I think like a rule of or an idea like I agree with that. Like I don't like contradict like neuroscience or anything like that. Like yeah. Um
But
Okay.
I just don't know how, like, what would be the difference between, like, if you think that consciousness is like something
Immaterial.
fundamental, do you think that like
Oh, yeah,
like
fundamental, yeah.
sorry?
Yeah, I was agreeing. Yeah.
Do you
what I
think that like P zombies are possible?
Yeah, I think there's a possible world in which. So what I would hold is like, do you know, like psychophysical laws?
Yeah,
So
sure.
consciousness would still be there in that world, pretty much, right?
Sure.
But there would just be different. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's how they're possible.
Yeah, okay. So what would be so okay, I guess I actually know what I think your answer would be, but I'll ask the question anyway.
Yeah.
What would be the difference from, like, let's say that I'm the only conscious one that exists, and let's say that the possible world in which P zombies exist is this possible world.
Mm-hmm.
How would I know the difference between how would I know that this is the possible world where P zombies exist and this is the possible world where there's actually other conscious things?
Okay, so I'm not sure that's possible. So I'm sure. So what I think is possible is there's a world with only P zombies. I'm not sure there's a possible world where there's like one P zombie. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I think there's these psychophysical laws that connect brain states to mental states, right? And like allow them to like interact. And I treat them like they're contingent, and I treat them kind of like the laws of nature, like kind of like David Chalmers has a good paper on this. But like, do you know yeah, like the gravitational laws, like laws of gravity, maybe. Like I treat them like that. So I'm not sure you could like change them to like be specific for one person, but like if I grant that, yeah, I can. Yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, I need to explain. Apparently, a lot of people are confused what a P zombie is. A P zombie is a philosophical zombie. So this is a being that behaves identically like you and I would behave, but has no internal experience. They're completely non-conscious. They're a biological robot, essentially. Just to clarify for everybody in the comments, because nobody knew what that was, apparently. Yeah, you could say like an NPC, right? So okay, so you don't think that it's possible for that actually seems a little bit suspicious, right? Like if the psychophysical laws are contingent, then you could have like, for example, it could be the case that the psychophysical laws are such that if you were located in a certain place, then it could be like spatially dependent, right? And then I would happen to be in the place where the psychophysical laws are such that my brain state is associated with some psychic states.
Yeah, that's right.
And then everybody else isn't, right?
Yeah, okay. Actually, yeah, I take that back. Okay, that does sound possible now. Okay, yeah, I do think that's possible then. Yeah, and so then in that case, how would I know? Yeah, I guess you wouldn't have. I mean, that's my whole problem with epiphenomenalism. Like, if you don't think the mind does anything, yeah, I guess, yeah, there's no way you would know, right?
And yeah, and it seems like that we end up stuck at like, even if in principle there's no way to know, then it seems like that it's probably like, perhaps it's not a good question.
Not a good question. Wait, what do you mean by not a good question?
Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't say it's not a good question because, well, okay, there's kind of two ways this could go. It could be that you're asking a question that has an answer, but it's in principle impossible to know. It's like, you know, like.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
The alternative is that you're asking a question whose answer is in principle impossible to know because it's a bad question. And it's just not clear to me that like there's a whole lot like that those two Venn diagrams aren't like a circle.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I could argue, I think a lot of philosophical things are like this. Like take like your prompt, like God, the existence of God. Like these are the type of things that we're not going to be able to know through like empirical investigation or like probably like.
Well, it doesn't have to just be empirical investigation, right? It could be a whole bunch of other stuff.
Oh yeah, so
I'm open to all sorts of stuff. I'm not an empiricist.
Yeah, right. But like what I'm saying, well, then I think it's possible to show like, I think like as we continue to do philosophy, as people continue to make more and more arguments, I do think there's ways that we can get these synthetic a priori truths eventually.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So I think we're
I wouldn't say it's useless. Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, would you say that if there are propositions whose truth value cannot be known even in principle, like suppose that you could prove like deductively that it cannot be known, would you say that question would be useless?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, it's not related to anything. I was just curious what your thoughts were on it. Now we are way off the beaten track.
Okay, sorry. So I was trying to argue that. So I'm trying to get to mind. So the conclusion I want to get to is mind is fundamental. Okay. Yeah, I haven't argued it. I haven't heard too many. I don't know too many people that are functionalists. So let me think. Okay. What about like an inductive argument for the mind being immaterial? What about something
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
yeah? Hold on. Let me think about how to formulate this.
Sure.
Yeah, like premise one, or can I just give it informally?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. The idea is just gonna be that mental states have like this private quality to them, right? Like we have introspective access to mental states. Every physical state that we observe so far, there's no like such like introspective access to them. Like they're only known through like public relations. So like we have strong inductive evidence that mind is very different from physical things.
Isn't the second premise just begging the question?
Question begging in what sense?
In the sense that it's just assuming that the mental states are not physical states that we've already observed and measured?
Well, I would be talking about like everything else besides like mental states, I guess. I guess we could.
So the induction is something like, yeah, so mental states are internal and they're private and we have first person access to them rather than third person access to them.
Yeah, like yeah, you could put this.
And then all of the other stuff, all of the other stuff except these mental states are generally accessible in the third person sense. But I don't see how it then follows that that they must not be both physical.
No, they could be. So they could both be physical. I'm saying it's an inductive
I'm not
argument.
even sure how it follows inductively.
Oh, okay.
Because like somehow you need to somehow you need to inductively make the claim that like, yeah, okay, no, I see what you're saying. You're saying if we,
okay, so
I guess the way to
mental states. Yeah.
I guess the way to frame this would be like, imagine that you didn't have any mental states, you didn't have access to any of this stuff. You would go out into the world and you would make measurements, and you would come to the conclusion that hey, all of this stuff in the world, it doesn't have. It's all very third person, all very, external. Right. And then you would go and you would think, and you'd be like, thinking is internal. That's different from external. And I guess you then want to say that the external stuff, that the qualifying difference is that the external stuff is physical. But I don't see how you come to that conclusion.
How do I
even
know
inductively?
Stuff is physical?
Well, no. How you that the qualifying distinction, right? Because it could be that the external stuff is physical, but that could not be the relevant difference between the external stuff and the internal stuff that makes it so the internal stuff is first person and the external stuff is third person. It could be some other property of the external stuff that makes the internal stuff different from it.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be some other property. The idea is that physical things all seem to share this same like property. Like no matter like where we look. Like think about like inductive arguments that physicalists like to make. Right? Maybe like we talk about like causal closure. Okay, look, we see causal closure everywhere else.
But we also see causal closure in the brain, right?
That we see in the brain.
Sorry, we see causal closure in the mind, I should say.
Yeah, well, we haven't. Well, I would actually disagree with that. Like, I don't think there has been like full like testing like on like every part of like the brain, and also like the changes that the mind does like could be like very small, right? Things like this. And like our current neuroscience looks for physical causes to things, right? I think yeah, like the way Brian Cutter explains it, it's like, well, we have like some like there's something we see things happening in the brain, right? So neuroscientists look for like the physical cause, right? So it's no. Yeah, so like I would predict that we would find mostly physical cause. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. But like the only reason I say this is because, and surely you've heard the story of Phineas Gage.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, this is, I guess the inductive argument goes the other way in this case. Like, inductively we expect that like if you can affect something, you go out and measure the world. If you do something physical to a physical thing, or if you do something physical to something and it changes, then like the thing that's changing is like a physical thing as well. And then you go and you do a physical thing to like a guy and his mind changes, at least seemingly.
Yeah.
Which, at least gives some inductive reasoning as to why you might think that the mind is a physical thing. It just seems like the inductive argument seems like that they can go kind of both ways. And surely you agree that dualism is silly, right? Because of the interaction problem.
Yeah. Okay. Or like positing like two subs, like, and for like even on basis of parsimony, I don't think.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, look, it like having two substances, I don't think is necessarily a problem if that's like the best explanation. But yeah, sure. I mean, it's not the best explanation because of the interaction problem, right? Yeah. So it's just not clear to me why. So okay. So you're trying to get to that. You're trying to get to mind being fundamental.
Yeah.
So, for the sake of argument, so would you say that when you say that mind is fundamental?
Yeah.
Let's just take that view for a moment. So, like, you would say that electron is actually mental. Like, an electron is mental. Like, it's in some sense composed of a mind or something.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah, everything, yeah.
So do you take the view kind of like a reductionist idealist view, or do you take sort of like a, I don't know, whatever the opposite of a holistic idealist view?
Oh, you would have to explain. I don't know.
Yeah, so what I mean by a reductionist idealist view is that like the simples are minds, and that when you put minds in a certain arrangement, they interact in a certain way, and you get a whole bunch of stuff. And I guess the holistic view is that there's like one mind, and then everything else is just like a part of that.
Do you know like Bernard Kastrup? Or Bernard Kastrup.
I don't know. I haven't read any of his work. I know his name.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he has this view where it's like, yeah, I think it's more in line with like the holistic one, but like there are like minds that are able to like split off from the holistic one.
So how do you get mereological nihilism if there's like if there is a mind that's like bigger than that's like composed of smaller minds or other minds can split off from?
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, typically,
yeah.
So I mean, like, look, I'm perhaps jumping the shark here, but like, I take it your view is that like God is the ultimate foundation, and then like other minds split off from it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then it just seems like that it seems like you can't hold that view and also be a mereological nihilist simultaneously. Unless you would say that God is actually just composite.
I don't think God is composite. I just don't think.
Then
I don't
think things split off from it.
I don't think there are composites. Well, they don't split off. So it's weird because immaterial things, they don't really have like if you're immaterial necessarily, you don't have like any parts. So it's kind of weird to like
immaterial. You don't have any parts.
Yeah, if you don't exist in space time, I don't think you have parts.
Well, I mean, I don't think that that's true. Like concepts can like if you take the view that concepts are like abstract, then it seems like concepts can have parts, right? Like if I like conceptualize like, I don't know, a red small I don't know, water bottle, like it has like the red part and the small part and the the shape part of the water bottle.
Okay.
And like conceptually that makes sense to say that at least it seems plausible that like that's like a way of talking about the parts of a concept as the different pieces that make it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like maybe. I mean, I'm just tentative because like it, like proper. It's definitely not like a proper. You definitely can't say there's a proper part of like our concepts have proper parts, right? I think like we're equivocating between like types of parts. I mean, I don't know, but like I mean, I'm not sure on this, but like.
Well, okay, hold on. I think that they absolutely could. I mean, like just take the view that yeah, actually, so presumably, going back to your original argument, you say the only thing that can explain the set of contingent things in that possible world is a necessary being. So if your view is that everything is abstract or everything is, non-material, I should say, then the set exists and it has proper parts, which are the things that make up the set.
Sorry, can you say that one more time? The set
actually, this is even more problematic for P3. If you're a mereological nihilist, then the set is not a thing that requires explanation because it's not a thing.
The set's abstract. It's not. When I talk about mereological nihilism, I'm trying to refer to like the things that we normally think of that like compose.
But you think that the things that we normally think of as composed are also abstract.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we can just drop. Like, can we just like drop like the like? I was trying to use like the mereological nihilism thing to like get to immateriality of the mind. Like, I'm not sure like if it's like a view that's even like compatible with.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, I suspect it might not be. Well, look, so it very well could be. But then it might reduce you to like panpsychism or something like that.
Yeah.
Which you
no,
probably
it's just like an
don't.
argument I heard from Dustin Crummett. I really liked the flow.
Sure.
Like, I thought it was like a straightforward. Yeah.
I actually really like mereological nihilism, but it does have the issue of identity. But yeah, okay, we can drop that. So So, but okay, so then in this view, it seems like you have the set is a thing that exists abstractly, the set of contingent things. All the contingent things are, of course, abstract, and the set of contingent things is also abstract. But the contingent things themselves are proper parts of the set of contingent things, right?
The contingent things themselves are parts of the set?
Yeah, that's what it means to be an element of the set, that you're like in it, and that you're not the set,
Yeah.
you're like in the set.
Yeah, you're in the set, yeah. Yeah.
So
Sorry,
it
it's
seems
early
that-
for me. It's hard for me to track. Yeah. I think I agree. Or
Okay,
yeah.
but actually it's irrelevant because we're dropping the mereological nihilism thing, which is totally fine. So then the view is that
So we got to a necessary being, and I was trying to prove that
yeah, okay, so
consciousness is
why
fundamental,
should
so
it
necessary being
why
would
should it be a
conscious.
mind?
Or what? Wait, what do you mean?
Why should the necessary being be a mind?
Oh, because I think like mind is like fundamental. I think
Right, but look, so I could be like some sort of like mathematical Platonist or something like this, and
Okay.
agree that there's a necessary being, and the necessary being is like the collection or like the the union of all possible mathematical objects or something like this.
Yeah.
And then it's just not a mind, and I have a necessary thing, and it seems like that the contingency argument is equally well answered that way. So it's just a matter of now coming to the conclusion that like everything is mind. Oh, I'm sorry. I know where I was going with this. So would you say that like formulas are minds? Like
Formula.
laws,
Yeah,
let's say
I don't
laws
know
of
if I
physics.
believe.
Let's say like laws of physics. Would you say that are these things that have ontology?
Yeah. I would say they have ontology. Yeah.
So then they are, but then in some sense they're like made of mind.
Made of, yeah. Not. I don't know if they are. Mind,
Yeah. But they're
Yeah.
made of mind in some sense, and so like
Yeah.
they're like actually things that exist.
Yeah.
And so it seems like that, and you would say the same thing about like mathematical objects.
I'm not sure about. I haven't thought too much. Or I just haven't thought too much about Platonism and like these type of things.
Well, the reason I ask is because if it's the case that under your view, everything is made of mind, that mind is fundamental, then it seems like that your view would be compatible with this kind of pure mathematical Platonism. You would just call the thing that is all logically possible mathematical objects, you would just call that God.
Yeah, sure. And that would be like a mind. Well, yeah. And then would it have like intentionality or no?
I don't think it would need to, right? Like you wouldn't say that the like laws of nature have intentionality, right? Even though they're made of mind.
No.
So like you could still be like this kind of idealist, think that everything is made of mind, that mind is fundamental, and still not have any intentionality for the necessary thing.
Okay. Yeah, that follows. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I do have to do more work. Okay.
It's definitely an interesting thought, though. I mean, like, I'm not a Platonist. I'm closer to a materialist than I will ever be to an idealist. But I imagine that there's got to be idealists who are like idealist philosophers who are also atheist, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So like it doesn't seem like the conjunction of necessity plus idealism gets you to a mind. But it's definitely an interesting thought, and I appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or should I move on to the next guest?
Yeah, can we run through can we talk about like fine tuning for a little bit?
Yeah, briefly.
Like,
That's
I just
fine.
want to hear what your arguments are against fine tuning. Like, I don't like the constant it's like there's like I'm sure like the normal fine tuning that's like in terms of like the constants of like the universe or like things like this. I would want to run it like in terms of like just look at like the aesthetic beauty, the rational intelligibility, just like the overall nature like of the world.
Oh, but I mean, I wouldn't call that fine tuning.
Okay.
I mean, my view on beauty is that that's something that like is kind of an evolutionary thing that we develop to interpret the world that way.
Okay.
Intelligibility. I'm not even really sure how to make sense of that, like what a universe would be like in order to be not intelligible.
It's like ordered, uniform, it's rationally discoverable, I guess, is like a way you can put it.
So I can't think of like a way the universe could be that's not rationally discoverable. Right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, just like imagine like a universe where the laws are like changing like every second, or like some like weird
But like, think of it this way, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, it might be the case that they are changing, but you know, to people 2,000 years ago, or 5,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, whatever, the world was changing. You know, every 6 months it would go from hot to cold, and then we just, you know, figured it out. We came up with a pattern and an explanation for that pattern, and now it's not so surprising anymore. So like it seems like that. It seems like that anything that could be a certain way, we would either be confused about it, or we would eventually not be confused about it.
Sure. I mean, so you're telling me you can't imagine like a world where it's like literally impossible to ever not be confused about it. Like we would always like.
I should say that like I can't imagine a world where. Yeah, I don't think it's possible that you could have a world with like people in it that's also completely unintelligible in any way.
Never mind. Yeah, this might not work actually. No, because I just realized, because under my view, you don't need like these like basic conditions of like matter to be able to like stick together or like for it to have like people or
but that brings up an interesting question. Like if God, and surely you've heard of like the whole electrons and love thing, like if
yeah, sure. Yeah.
It on your view, it doesn't seem like this, you know, foundational mind would have a preference for making the universe, say, rationally intelligible, because he could just endow electrons with minds and then let him go. Like, he's not all loving, at least he doesn't have to be. So there's no reason that he would care about whether or not they're confused or not.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. That's a possibility. But I'm just saying, like, the normative structure, and I think that world, I would actually count that world as being rationally intelligible. If it's just like electrons, is that what you're saying? Just like
it's just like random particles, and then everything else, the laws of physics. Let's say that there's just a kind of particle that has whose properties changes at all times, and there's no underlying laws of physics because they're always changing and blah 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 whatever. Even their structure is changing, but you just have like particles, like these objects that just have minds. Why wouldn't this divine creator create the world that way?
It's possible. Yeah, he could. It's possible. I would say it would be like less likely because like the minds like normativity and like this being might have like certain value. Like it's hard for me to imagine a being that like values like things like that.
Well, right, but like why? But like your conception is not the theistic one. It doesn't necessarily have to have any properties of like goodness. It could be evil, in which case it values like the confusion and suffering of these electrons, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that could be true too, actually. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that sounds possible. Okay, maybe fine-tuning doesn't work for my view. I mean, I don't have strong opinions about fine-tuning really. I just was curious.
No, it's fine. It's
thought
fine.
about that variation of fine-tuning where it's like not based, because I always hear like the one based on constants, but yeah. Okay, yeah, that's all I have though. All right, well.
All right, well, thanks for being here. It was a good combo. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Take care. That was really chill. He's definitely not going on YouTube, but it was a good combo, and I'm glad I was talking to him. I'm going to read some super chats, and then we'll bring up our next guest. From Mindforge Manacle, what GPU will you get? Oh, so I kept the GPU. I kept the GPU, the hard drive, the RAM. I think that's it. So it's a 4060 Ti. But thank you for the $5, Mindforged. From Gallower, with the 400 Indian rupees, can a subsystem become aware of the total dynamics it participates in, i.e. how to ascertain if what was assumed emergent is a field? I don't know what that means. The first part I think I understand. I would say that a subsystem probably can become aware of the total dynamics it participates in. That doesn't seem impossible anyway. And from Tinky Pixie with the 50 Australian dollars. Thank you so much, Tinky. Hi, Dr. Blitz. I hope your cat has recovered well after ear op. It was so minor. It was not a big deal. They just were like, yeah, there's a thing here. We're just going to remove it. She's fine. She's getting stitches out next week. She's fine. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the concern. From Gallower again with the 400 rupees. Contrary to the conclusions of classical mechanics, there exist effects of potentials on charged particles, even in the region where all the fields and forces on particles vanish. Yeah, that's true. The Aharonov-Bohm effect is an example of this. From Eric S. with the $5. Idea. The Bible's physics used to be right, but God keeps having to patch reality as we look deeper. Shit, they're checking shadows. Make it round. That's a fun idea. It's a fun way to put it. From Eat Some Shorts with the $10. Welcome back. I hope you and your computer are happy and healthy. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. From Ginger Drums with the €10. Thank you so much, Ginger. Dr. Bernardo Kastrup has a very strong version of atheist ontological idealism. It works backwards from the hard problem of consciousness, very compelling and competent argumentation. Check him out. I've heard from other philosophically inclined people that nobody really takes him seriously as like a philosopher. I could be wrong though. And from Ginger Drums again with the €2. Further, how do you formulate respond to the hard problem? I just say that I don't think that anybody has a good explanation. Well, I think that everybody has a hard problem. If you're an idealist, you get the hard problem of why is there physical stuff, right? By the way, I will have to take a call, a very important call, sometime today, perhaps during the live stream. I'll get a call or a text message that I definitely need to pick up, otherwise I won't get scheduled for something, so I'll have to do that. But that is for future me. That's a problem for future me. Oh, and one other thing is that I think that we got a Cash App from, maybe I already read this. Yes, we already read the Cash App from Grimlock with the $50. All right, let's bring up Paul.
Hello.
Paul, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Paul, do you believe in a God?
Yeah, I'm Jewish.
Okay, and why should I believe in that?
So, I mean, I have, like, my own, like, syllogism that I prepared, if you want to type it down, like
Sure.
you did with the last guy.
Sure, happy to.
So, I would just say, like...
One sec, let me just pull up the notepad. Come on, there we go. Okay.
I
Yep,
would
go
say
ahead.
that the first premise is that whatever is changed by something else.
Whatever is changed by something else. Okay.
I said that change. The next premise would be that change is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third premise would be that an infinite chain of changes right now is impossible.
Okay.
Well, this may be like an unsubstantiated claim, but the fourth premise would be like, therefore there is a first unchanged changer, that it's a pure act.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would go into like the fifth premise, which is that the laws of logic are true in every possible world.
Okay.
And that metaphysically necessary truths need an explanation. So,
sorry, one sec. P6, metaphysically necessary truths need an explanation. Okay.
Okay, and then it would be the best explanation of logic is a necessary mind that thinks those truths.
Explanation of logic is a necessary mind that what?
Thinks those truths.
Okay.
And then there can be only one ultimate necessary foundation of reality.
The only one ultimate necessary foundation of reality. Okay.
Therefore, the first unchanged changer is that necessary mind.
Therefore, the first unchanged changer is, one more time?
Is that necessary mind.
Okay, so that's supposed to be a conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Let's call this a conclusion. All right, let's look at this. This conclusion doesn't seem to follow from these.
That's why I said it like could be a fourth premise.
Okay. But then you shouldn't say therefore.
Okay.
So okay, so this is, if we grant P1, P2, and P3, whatever is changed by something else, or whatever is changed by something else. Change is happening right now. And so then you would say, okay, well then that change is changed by that change is caused, or, you know, that something causes that thing to change. And so then there's some earlier thing that did the changing. And so either that thing, Wait a minute. What? Yeah, how do you just exclude that there were just like a whole bunch of things that were unchanged changers?
So wait, I think you wrote the third premise wrong. I never said that there was an infinite change of changes. There was an infinite change of changers.
Okay, how do you rule out like just like some large but finite number of changers?
Well, change is finite. It can't be infinite.
I don't understand what that means, but it doesn't seem like it's addressing what I said. Like, you say that there's a first unchanged changer, but why couldn't you have just like 100 of them? Or like a trillion of them?
There's no set of changers. It's just
Why not?
going, because we can't substantiate change. It's not like axiomatic.
I mean, you're saying that there's a first, which means that there's some way that you can quantify over the changers.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's not like a number of changes that can happen, but there can be like a cause of changes, which
Well,
is
look,
the first.
you're saying that there's at least one changer, right, that's unchanged,
Yeah.
right? And you're saying that there is a first one, but why can't there just be 2 of them that happen at the same time, or 100 of them that happen at the same time?
Well, because it's a pure act.
I don't see how that addresses my question of like why I can't have like 100 different unchanged changers just all changing different things at the same time.
I would just say like that just is like not possible, because like in the current state that we're in, like in the current state of change that we have now, there can't be like a greater, there can't be greater than one, because it's a first cause, because there would be an infinite regress every single time you go
I'm not no look, so you think that the universe had a beginning, right? And
yes.
that beginning was like the first act by like this changer, this unchanged changer. And in that beginning, all of these things happened. You know, there's matter began to exist, and gravity began to exist, and electromagnetism, all of these things began to exist. But why couldn't it just be that there were like 5 unchanged changers? One of them made gravity begin to exist. One of them made matter begin to exist. One of them made electromagnetism begin to exist. One of them made space begin to exist. Like, why is there? Why can we say that like there is a first one? That there's like a single first one?
Well, it depends, because if you're saying that those all are encompassed in one system, which is the universe, then you would have to lie out a first cause, because those wouldn't exist if the universe didn't exist.
Well, no. So like they're like they all do these things simultaneously, and so it all comes into existence at the same time.
Yes, but would they exist if the universe didn't exist?
They are what make up the universe. They are the universe altogether.
Then there needs to be an explanation for the universe, because
The explanation is that all of these unchanged changers created this stuff at the same time. That's the explanation.
So it's simultaneously changing all at the same time?
Yeah.
So do you think that time existed with the universe, like when it?
Well, look, I think that probably your argument relies on like an A theory of time, and that your argument probably relies on some notion of like this creator being, this singular creator being existing in time anyway. But just like take whatever view you have about this being, and then just multiply it by like 5, and then just divide up the roles accordingly.
So why do you think in my worldview I would need it's possible for that there would be other creators? Like, why can't there just be?
I'm not. Well, so why it's possible? Well, you could just take your God being, duplicate it a few times, and then just add additional properties to these duplicates and to the original one, and then the additional property is this being can only make this being can only make that, this being can only make that, and so then they all just make all of the things that they can make.
So do you think they get assigned those roles, or they just have those roles innately in their nature?
I would think it would be innately in their nature.
Do you think roles are what do you think roles are self-assigned?
Roles or rules?
Roles.
I would imagine that they can be, right?
Like, do you think like those like would all of those creators have a mind to assign themselves those roles, or like
Yeah,
why
it would
would
be
they?
it would be in their nature for that to be the thing that they make.
So why do you think that? Do you think that the nature is self-determined?
Whatever you think determines the nature of the god that you believe in, that's what determines the nature of the many gods that I'm proposing.
I just don't see that it's like like if I were to have like a first unchanged changer, I would just see that its sole duty was to create the system where all of these are operating.
But
Like,
why would it create? So why is part of its duty to create gravity?
because like you said that it comes along with the universe. So
Well, yeah,
wouldn't
but
this-
like you could at least imagine a universe without gravity, right?
But wouldn't you think it's more simpler to just design a universe that already has built in all those properties that you gave in, rather than just assign multiple gods to fulfill those duties?
Look, so your theory might be more parsimonious and might be simpler, but like it doesn't make my counterpoint impossible. And you're trying to make a deductive argument here, right? You're trying to make an argument for, that it must follow that there's a first unchanged changer.
Yeah, because there can't be an infinite chain of changers.
Right, but you haven't ruled out that there's like some finite number of first changers. Some finite but more than one number of first changers.
Wait, but do you think, how can there be like more than one, like, wait, if you're
Yeah,
an
if they all do the changing at the same non-temporal moment.
So wait, you can create something atemporally?
I mean, that's what you think, right?
I mean, I do think that God like created universe with time to exist. So I mean, I wouldn't find that like you can like, I believe that God willed the universe into existence with his energies.
Yeah, and so I would say that like each of these like partial gods, whatever you want to call them, willed electrons into existence and willed space-time into existence. They did it with their energies.
Well, that's impossible, because like if we look at like the beginning of the universe, like all these like properties of the universe that you're talking about obviously like didn't always exist. Like they developed.
Well, we can just
to
talk about
exist.
whatever properties were there from at the beginning, and we can just assign each one to each god.
Which properties?
Whatever properties you think the universe had at the beginning. That's all.
So like, do you think energy?
Well, I
exists
don't.
within the universe?
I mean, I don't take energy to be a physical substance, but like it doesn't matter like what the actual answer is like physically. I don't even think the universe had like a I don't think that there was nothing and then there was a universe. Like I don't think that that's the case. But the point stands is whatever you think the universe had at the very beginning, just take all of those properties and split them up amongst different gods.
I mean, if that were to be true, I would just not see like, I would like have to argue that the unchanged changer would have to have like great making properties.
Yeah, you would. So like the argument that you've offered hasn't really gotten you to there is a first unchanged changer.
So you think like God has parts? Like my unchanged changer would have parts?
Well, it's at least consistent with the argument that you could everything up until or everything up to and including P3 is entirely consistent with having just like 5 gods, each of whose nature are different, and so that they create different kinds of things. Like it's totally consistent. There's no like logical inconsistency there.
I mean, I would just like, I feel like if you were to like split the roles, for example, you would have that unchanged changer create gravity. I would just like see that like if you were to create gravity, I would just see like it's fundamentally different from other parts of the universe. So like there's not like you can't just mimic the effect of gravity and create it into existence. I would just feel like that it would need to come with the universe. And since gravity is universal and it affects everything with energy, you can't just like turn it off for like some things to assign.
Are you suggesting that the universe is not contingent?
I am suggesting
That if there
I'm saying
exists a
that-
universe, then all of the parts with it, all of the parts in the universe must be the way that they are.
Wait, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, so if the universe exists, then all of the parts within the universe, all of the like the forces and the laws and the space-time and the matter, all of that matter must be there necessarily if the universe exists. That the universe couldn't be any other way.
Well, I mean, that's like I would just argue that the universe. Wait, so you're arguing like? Oh, I am arguing that the universe was structured and designed.
So
and
then it
is
has different ways that it could have been. There could have been a universe without gravity, right?
Well, I don't think that universe would exist, like because the universe must exist with gravity. It's what holds all energy. It's universal.
We're right, but so you don't think that gravity could not exist? You don't think that this unchanged changer could have created a universe without gravity?
I think it's impossible.
Do you okay? Like logically impossible, or like physically impossible, or what?
Well, physically impossible.
Okay. Do you think that this being could create a universe without any matter in it?
No.
That's strange. What's the impossibility there?
Isn't matter also universal in the universe?
Well, matter exists in our universe, but it doesn't have to.
So, like, is it universal?
I don't know what you mean by is it universal?
Like, is it like a property of the universe that like holds the universe to like did it exist when the universe like came to be with the Big Bang?
It just depends on how you view the Big Bang, but like there's no reason to think that there's no physical reason anyway to think that you couldn't have a universe that's just completely empty without any matter in it.
So I was like if it is possible that the universe can exist without matter, and it's not like a fundamental property that the universe would need to exist, I mean, then I guess it's not necessarily logically impossible or physically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't see why that would need like a separate entity to.
Well, it means that a
create
separate
matter.
entity could be present, right? You could break up the roles of creating matter versus creating, the stuff that matter, interacts with, like the forces and stuff.
I mean, I just like don't see like. I mean, like, do you think like those entities would be inside of our universe?
The matter and the forces and all of that, sure. Well, I would say that they're like part of our universe, right? Our universe would be different if they weren't there.
Then they can't be an unchanged changer because they would have to be in time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about matter and stuff. I was talking about the. I was talking about matter and stuff. No. The unchanged changers, they would exist in the same way that like the unchanged changer that you believe in exists.
I mean, like, my main issue like is like, do you think like this would work for like your critique would work for the like ultimate grounds of reality? Like, if, for example, if there was two separate necessary beings that would exist in every possible world, don't you think like distinction would have to distinction means like something differentiates them, and like one has a property that the other lacks, so like one grounds
that's fine.
gravity.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the difference is a real property one has and the other lacks, then why does one have it and not the other? Like, why would...
Yeah, maybe this kind of property is the only thing that can be instantiated by a single being. And so whichever one has it, the other one doesn't have it.
But necessary beings can't have contingent features because everything about them must be necessary.
Oh, you don't want to say that.
Like, do you think like their difference is just like...
Well, you don't want to say that contingent beings can't have, or necessary beings can't have contingent features, right?
Well, there's no other way they could be.
Well, so look, so do you think, does God have, in your view, does God have free will?
It depends how you define like freedom.
Yeah, so I define having free will to be the ability to have done otherwise.
Well, he's atemporal, so he can only go one path.
But atemporal doesn't help you here. Because you're already assuming that like actions can be taken atemporally anyway.
He's only in one state, so there's no other state that he can be.
Okay, so then, well, hold on. You don't want to say that either, because I assume under your view, there was a state of affairs. I shouldn't use the word was, but you know, the state of affairs where God existed but the universe didn't was one state, and God knew what the state of affairs was because, you know, God knows everything. However, on the other hand, there's a state of affairs where God exists and the universe exists, in which case God knows what the state of affairs is in that case as well. And so in that case, God's knowledge has changed.
So if his knowledge changed,
That means that God's mind is at least in part contingent.
so why couldn't have? Well, God is all knowing, so wouldn't he just have known it already? So like.
So when God existed alone, you think that God knew that God existed with the universe?
Well, there was no time back then, so he couldn't have like initiated the universe, like, or created the universe. So
yeah. So if God existed alone, then he couldn't create the universe. I agree. If he existed absent time, I agree. God couldn't create the universe.
Yeah, but I would just like say that like he always knew that the universe was going to exist.
Hold on, no. We have to address what I just said, and I don't know why you would agree to this, because you've been insisting that God is atemporal, and then you just said that if God is atemporal, God couldn't do anything.
Well,
that includes creating the universe.
He can't act upon it, but he can will to act upon it. His will is eternal.
Willing something is doing something.
I mean,
it's just an internal doing rather than an external doing.
Well, will doesn't initiate change, but action initiates change.
So then him willing something doesn't do anything. In which case, the will is irrelevant.
Wait, why would his will be irrelevant?
Because it doesn't do anything.
But
it's not the thing that causes creation, right? It's not the proximal cause of creation, I should say.
But he's omnipotent. I mean, like his act of potency, obviously, his will can obviously form an act of potency to create.
Wait, hold on. Just 2 seconds ago, you said that wills don't cause anything.
When did I say that?
Hold on, I'll play it back for you. This is like I swear I'm not hearing things. 1 sec. And God knew what the state of affairs was because, you know, God knows everything. God's knowledge exists.
Initiated the universe, like.
And then he couldn't create the universe. Hold on.
Yeah, but I would just like say that like he always knew that the universe.
Why you would agree to this? Because you've been insisting that God didn't do anything.
He can't act upon it, but he can will.
That includes creating the universe.
He can't act upon it, but he can will to act upon it. His will is eternal.
Willing something is doing something.
I mean,
it's just an internal doing rather than an external doing.
Well, will doesn't initiate change, but action initiates.
Will doesn't initiate change, right?
Yeah, but you can will something to initiate change. Like it doesn't, like will in itself doesn't initiate change.
Right. So it can't. So if change is just when something happens, right? You could say when something happens in a way that it is one way and it was some other way, then that means that will can't make anything happen. It can't initiate anything happening.
I mean, it could plan for creation. So
I mean, planning's great, but then it's just not doing anything, right?
So, I mean, I would just say like this plan, it structured out the universe to be the way it is.
But it can't initiate change, right? So it's not the plan that did it, that created the universe.
I mean, the pre-planning would structure the universe, and then God's.
No, the pre-planning it can't structure anything, right? Because structuring something would be initiating change, going from unstructured to structured.
Did God not know the state of the universe was going to exist like the state of
Well, I don't think that God exists because of all of these issues, namely that you run into so many issues with, like, what does it mean for an atemporal being to do anything? What does it mean for an atemporal being to know anything or to know everything? There's so many issues with this, and that's what I'm trying to lay out for you. I'm trying to show you how there are so many issues with, like, making sense of an atemporal being doing this.
I mean, like, wouldn't he just know contingent events, like if the universe's creation existing, like he knows the world by knowing himself as its sustaining cause, and the how he created it was it was eternally present to him in his single form and his simple
Eternally present? So, like, did God never exist alone?
I mean, it depends on how you like did God know that he was going to that the universe was going to exist? So I mean, he wouldn't know that he would exist alone.
Wait, so there was a state of affairs. So you think that the universe had a beginning, so there was a state of affairs where God was actually alone, right? It was just God, no universe.
Yeah, but he would know that he's not going to be alone because
Right. He might know in the future, but does he know that he's alone? Does he know that he is alone? And we can't say now because there's no time. So does God know the proposition, I am alone?
No.
So then there's something that God doesn't know.
But he was never alone because, like...
But he was alone. The universe didn't exist. He hadn't created it.
How do you classify a state of loneliness?
That God is the only thing with ontology?
Well, like, the state of loneliness, like, are you talking about, like, physical loneliness or, like, emotional
No, I just mean, like,
loneliness?
look, take a sum total of all of the things that exist in this atemporal state and count them. If there's more than one, then you're not alone. If there is one, then you're alone.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, his essence, I feel like, wouldn't just, like, make him feel alone.
I'm not talking about, like, feeling or whatever. I'm just talking about, does he know the proposition, I am the only thing that exists? Because that's true, right? Absent the universe, that is true.
I mean, he wouldn't, like, feel it, but he would, like, it would obviously be a brute fact that he was alone before the universe.
It's not, hold on, you don't want to say it's a brute fact, do you?
I mean, is it not like a factual statement?
Okay, so a brute fact means a brute fact is a type of fact that has no explanation.
Okay, so then I guess it's a true statement that he was a singular entity before the universe existed.
Right. So now God is atemporal, right?
Yes.
Okay. And God can't change?
No.
Okay, so God cannot become temporal, right?
No.
Okay, so God's knowledge that he knows about this true statement. He knows, and by know it means that it's true. He knows that he is the only entity in existence, and then he creates the universe. I don't want to say and then like it implies time. At some point there is a universe and God. Now God is still atemporal, so he still can't change. And yet, he still knows, because he can't change, he knows that he is alone, but now he's wrong.
Wait, so then his knowledge didn't change if he was in a state of atemporality.
Right, his knowledge can't change because he's in a state of atemporality. So now, which means that the knowledge that he had when he was alone, that knowledge is unchanged, so he still knows, I am alone, but now he's wrong about it.
If change only operates in time and God existed before time existed, then why would anything that was relevant before time encompass anything that changes? Like,
because he's still outside of time. He never enters time.
But his knowledge would only change in time. So
his knowledge can't change in time because he's not in time.
Exactly. So then
his knowledge can never change, right?
But then anything that changes wouldn't really be regarded as change because he's atemporal.
Anything that change, well, look, nothing can change if he's atemporal. So, including his knowledge can't change.
So why would God So if God's knowledge was eternal, do you agree that like it's in a state?
I don't know what
like-
you mean by eternal. Eternal is a time word.
Okay, so if God knows everything,
Mhm.
that were to
Atemporally.
happen, that were to happen atemporally, do you think
Well, nothing
like
happens atemporally, right?
yeah, so if God's knowledge was if God's knowledge was atemporally and all-knowingly, then why would any acts of change be relevant to his knowledge?
Well, his knowledge includes I am alone. And then, at some later point, he's no longer alone.
I mean, do you think that's like a necessary thought that he needs to have?
Well, then he just doesn't know everything. And not only that, he holds a view that's wrong.
Is everything in our universe or outside?
Is everything in our well, I take the definition that the universe is all of that which exists, but I imagine that you don't think that God exists within the universe.
Yeah, so are all situations in our universe, or can it be outside of our universe?
Are all situations in our universe? I mean, again, in my view, I would say yes, but in your view, you would have to say no. There are situations outside our universe, namely the situation that God was in before God created the universe.
Why couldn't I say no, though?
I don't know what it means to say that God wasn't in a situation.
Like a situation that's like, I mean, he's so I hold to an omnipresent God, meaning that he's present almost everywhere. If
Did
he's
you say
present-
almost everywhere?
No, all everywhere.
Oh, okay, sure.
So if God's present everywhere, then he wouldn't really need to be in any other state. So he wouldn't really change.
Right. Okay. Maybe. So before God created the universe, and I'm using before in an ontological sense, not in a temporal sense. Before God created the universe, God was alone. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
It was just God. And then after God created the universe, again, in an ontological sense, not in a temporal sense, God was no longer alone.
But he would already be in the state where the universe existed because he's omnipresent and eternal.
How could he be both in the state where he's alone and also in the state where he's not alone? In the same sense, in the same atemporal sense. It seems like a
because he
direct
would've-
contradiction.
He would have been there before it happened.
So you're telling me that he was never alone? There was never a state of affairs where God was alone?
No, because that would necessitate that his knowledge would change.
Okay, so God was not alone even before he had created the universe.
Yeah.
I take that to be a direct contradiction. The only objects that existed was God and not the universe, and yet you're saying that God wasn't alone. That means that there was some other object before God created any other objects.
Yeah, I mean, so he's present. So he would be present with the universe as it was created.
Yeah, but not before it was created. He wasn't present with the universe.
So couldn't he have just existed to create the universe along with it?
So then he was created, he began existing just as the universe began existing?
Yeah.
Okay, but then how can the creator of something begin to exist when the created thing also began to exist? That seems impossible.
How is that?
Also,
like,
now you're saying that God began to exist. So what created God? Because that's a change.
he didn't begin to exist. He eternally.
You just said he did.
The universe began to exist, but
No, you just said that God did. I can replay it for you.
To initiate.
So,
I mean, it depends.
yeah, but not before it was created. He wasn't present with the universe.
So couldn't he have just existed to create the universe along with it?
So then he was created. He began existing just as the universe began existing.
Yeah.
Okay, but then
Yeah. So I mean,
so
like,
then God began existing just as the universe began existing.
sorry. Yeah. I guess I don't hold that to be true.
Okay.
So I guess like the main problem is that like if he is like why would knowledge like necessarily be like a property that needs to be eternal with God?
Why would not? Sorry, repeat that.
Why does knowledge have to be eternal, like an eternal property with God?
So you think that God's knowledge can change?
No, but I mean, like, why is it like?
I mean,
eternal
like
property?
generally, the view is that every property of God is essential to God, because otherwise you have a property of God that's contingent.
Yeah, but like, do you think like in every mind that like it like in God's mind that his knowledge like must like do you think like knowledge can have a cap?
Do I think that
Like-
knowledge can have a cap? That's not clear to me. I mean, like, it seems plausible that there's a finite amount of knowledge that's possible to be held, but actually maybe not. Like, maybe you could hold an infinite amount of knowledge, logically at least, but like, I don't see how that's related.
I just wouldn't see like if God is all knowing and like there's a set amount of things that were to be known, I wouldn't like see it as an eternal property.
What if it's not an internal property? What else is it? Did you
It's
say
not
internal or eternal?
Eternal.
Well, it's not. None of his properties are eternal properties. They're atemporal properties,
Yeah, so if there's like a
which means that they're unchanging, and you know.
yeah, but like I just wouldn't see like how like it's a direct contradiction like if he were to know like
Okay,
that.
let me show you something. Okay. Zoom in a little bit. I wrote this out a while ago, so it might need some modifications, but for now, this is probably good enough. Oh, I guess I haven't had the TikTok guest box up for a while. Okay, so this is just an argument that I wrote down a long time ago. It's fairly accurate to what I want. So would you agree with premise 1 that God has a mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you agree with premise 2 that minds have either changing mental states or an unchanging mental state?
Yeah.
Okay, then the conclusion is that God has either a changing mental state or an unchanging mental state. And by the way, I should add to P2 that this is exclusive, meaning you can't have both a changing mental state while also not having any changing mental states. This is like an exclusive or, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we get that God has either a changing mental state or an unchanging mental state. Fine. Now, premise 4, this is just what is meant by... Oh, where'd you go?
Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
Okay, so yeah, I hold to P4.
Okay, so change only occurs in time?
Yeah.
Okay, and then P5, God exists outside of time. This is what you've been saying this whole time, so I imagine that you agree with P4 and P5. So that means, conclusion, God has an unchanging mental state.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, P6 is that acting upon one's will changes one's mental states. The way to think about this in an explicit way is, I have the will to do X and have not done X, to I have fulfilled my will of doing X.
Yeah, I would hold to that.
Okay, then it follows from P6 and C2 that God cannot act upon his will. And then we just offer a definition of what P7 is. An agent is a being that has a will and can act upon it, and we come to the conclusion that God is not an agent. But I think that you'd have, you agreed to all of the premises, and we come to the conclusion that God cannot act upon his will, and that seems that like.
What I've been mostly saying throughout this debate is that he's willing to act.
Well, no, he can't act upon his will. That's the point. Because acting upon one's will causes a change in the mental states, but God has an unchanging mental state.
But like, why can't God will his energies to act?
Because acting upon one's will change one's mental states. And God doesn't have changing mental states. God has an unchanging mental state.
Like, do you think you can? Well, my question is like, do you think you can will something to act?
I don't know what that means. The one that is doing the willing is also the one that's doing the acting, right?
Yeah, so like, can you prepare your energies to act upon something?
You can't do anything if you exist outside of time. Anything that you would do, any sort of action, like preparing your energies or whatever that means, that would consist upon doing an action, right? Preparing something is acting. Namely, and that would change the mental state, namely from God's mental state changing from, I have the will to prepare for XYZ, and I have not done XYZ, to, I have fulfilled my will of doing XYZ.
But like, God in himself, he doesn't really like lack and like nothing. So like, why would he like be in a state of loneliness before the universe was created?
It's not really relevant. I mean, like, look, like this is, like I've checked this. This is a valid argument. So is there an objection that you hold to one of the premises?
I mean, I can't deny P6, but like, I just like don't see how it rejects what I was talking about earlier.
Look, so P6 plus C2 means that God cannot act upon his will, because acting upon his will would cause a changing mental state, but God has an unchanging mental state.
Yeah, I agree that his mental state is unchanging, but like...
But then acting upon his will, which you've agreed that acting upon one's will changes one's mental state. You've agreed that that's true. So he can't act upon his will because then his mental state would change, but his mental state can't change.
Yeah, I agree to that.
So you've just affirmed a contradiction, that his mental state can change, but his mental state also can't change.
So, like, from what we were talking about earlier, about his knowledge changing?
Well, in this case, it's knowledge about the actions that he's committed.
So, was this action of creating the universe, like, do you think, in my worldview, would it be atemporal?
I don't think that actions can be atemporal, but even if they could be, the mental states would still be changing for this atemporal being.
I mean, like, do you think, like, if we were to say that God was, like, if you talk about, like, being alone, in the sense that, like, he lacks something, or like it's that
no, it's just he just has a different mental state when he's alone than when he's not alone. He has a different mental state when he's before, in big air quotes, before he's acted compared with after he's acted.
Yeah, but like if there is one God, and like his essence is like nothing in his essence is like added or composite, but his essence alone, like
this, by the way, you said you're Jewish, right?
Yeah.
This whole essence energy distinction is very Catholic.
Yeah, I'm not trying to argue for Catholicism.
No, I know, but the arguments you're giving are Catholic arguments.
I mean, I'm like, I think that like of course, like, I'm monotheistic, but like I think that God's essence in general, like
oh, maybe it's like, Orthodox, not Catholic. But either way, it's still Christian.
I think that like there wouldn't really need to be a relationship between his essence, so like he wouldn't really be in a state of being alone.
Being alone is being unable to be in a relationship with anything external, because there is nothing external. That's what being alone is.
Yeah, so if you can't have a relationship of being alone to anything external, then he's not alone.
That's what it means. What it means to be alone is to not have a relationship with anything external. That's what it means to be alone.
Yeah, but I'm arguing that his essence could be just unified, and there wouldn't be really anything to have a relationship with.
Alone just means that the thing exists and nothing else exists. That's what alone means, right?
But you just argued that it's relational.
I mean, you could use it relationally, insofar as relation, or as relation requires that more than one thing exists.
Yeah. I would argue that like you can only use the state of being alone relationally, because if there's nothing that's externally there, or if it's possible that like nothing else would have existed but God, then why would he really care about
It's not that he
alone?
would care. It's just that if he knows everything, then he would know that thing.
Yeah, but in the state where he was alone, and he was willing the universe into existence, or pre-planning it, as so far, like he wouldn't.
How do you pre-plan something if there's no time? What is it before? How can you say that you're doing something before you do something else if there's no time?
I'm sorry, I would have just meant like he had like, I mean, there would have been really no before. He knows that the universe would have existed in every state that there was. So like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
he
So
obviously-
so he knew that the universe would exist. It just didn't exist, right?
yeah.
i.e.
I
he's
think-
alone.
Yeah, so I think I kind of need to research more of your like
That's fair.
maybe like I just want you to debate with other people. But
Okay.
thank you for allowing me a chance.
Thanks for being here,
debate.
Paul. Take care.
Bye.
Why does everybody have to be so nice? I can't put that guy on YouTube. He's too nice. All right, let's bring up our next guest. I guess we can talk to Colin Brown. I think Colin Brown's been... Oh, I need to read Super Chats. Colin, can you give me a sec so I can read Super Chats? Shouldn't take that long.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So we have Simeon Urchin with the $5 dues doing a small amount of research. Arthur Schopenhauer was an atheist idealist. It's why Nietzsche disliked him. Schopenhauer held the universe is made of will. That's interesting. From Tim Davidson with the $2. Just walked in and see PPPPPPC. Dang. Sorry. From Tim Davidson with the $5. Don't you think it's simpler to have the more complicated being do it? Well, yeah, in a sense. But I get the point. From Ekipo with the €5. Love when they start to argue against their own argument. Yeah, there were a lot of things that he said. And look, I understand that person was probably young and probably new at this, but you know, there are a lot of things that they said that if I was a meaner interlocutor, I would have, you know, roasted them for. But I'm not. From Binary Ghost with the $10, a being that is all-powerful and all-knowing wouldn't need to plan anything out. Planning implies possibility of failure. An infallible being would just do things and they would always work. I think the implication here is that, like, God thinks about the way the world is. God, like, you know, mulls it over and tries to decide how they want the world to be. Not that there's risk of failure, but merely that, like, oh, well, maybe I want it this way, maybe I want it that way because I have different preferences. Or so, I think that that's roughly the implication here. Obviously not as anthropomorphized, but that's the idea. From Binary Ghosts, again with the $10, where does this idea that God is outside of time come from? Is there scripture that supports this? Is it universe creation? What makes us so sure that there is no time outside of our universe? I think that there might be scripture that supports it in the Christian literature, but I don't know if there's any that supports it in the Jewish literature. Which is why it was weird he was giving Christian arguments. From Juiced with the €5, this conversation is what happens when you realize you cannot defend the God of the book, so you go to the last little spot your God can hide. Yep, it's called philosophy, or rather, it's called it's called philosophy. From Ereboros with the $5, could it be that God's unchanging brain state is that he knows he is alone until creation and that he would no longer be alone? No changing, right? I guess you could say that, but then the question is does he know the proposition, I am alone, right? That seems like a proposition that it's not like a category error. It seems like it's a proposition, and the question is whether it's true or not. All right, so that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. Colin, I take it from your comments that you believe that there is a God.
Yes.
And which one would that be, just so I don't make any bad assumptions?
Sure, I guess kind of a mystical or Eastern Orthodox conception of God.
Okay. That's fine. So what would you say is the reason that I should believe in this God?
I think touching on kind of what he was saying, I believe that God was never alone, in the way that he was describing.
Yeah, in what sense was God not alone? Ontologically prior to the universe existing?
So yeah, when we participate in divine energies, we become
I have no idea
a
what that
part
means.
of. Okay, so
But like,
essentially,
do you think that God existed in a state of that there was ever a state of affairs where God existed and the universe didn't exist?
Yeah, sure.
So why couldn't we say that that state of affairs is one in which God is alone?
Well, he had a divine pattern, right?
Yeah, sure. But like there's no other stuff than God, right?
It's not yet manifested.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
So you think that the universe did exist even if the universe didn't exist?
Well, the thing is it didn't have the potential. It just was not yet manifested. So it wasn't there like in the way that I've existed for 20 years, but it was in the mind. Every single thing has a logoi within the logos, the wisdom of God.
Right, but clearly that has a different ontology than like the universe existing, right? The way the universe exists now, I should say.
Yeah, it's a different sort of thing.
Right, and so in one case it's kind of like contained within God, whereas now it's not contained within God, correct?
Sure.
So like,
but at the
like my liver is contained within me, but if I was in an empty room, I wouldn't say I'm not alone. I have a liver. That's just not what when we say that something is alone, we mean that there's nothing besides the thing and all that it contains.
But the life was still there, right? The spirit.
Right, but there was nothing like besides God. Everything that all of the things that you're describing are just part of God.
Not necessarily, because eternal life, if we're participating in eternal life, therefore he's with us even before creation.
If we're I am very confused by what you just said. I mean, like before creation, right? The universe as it exists in the way it exists certainly didn't exist, right? There wasn't like some external world, right?
Sure.
So was there some other kind of world that wasn't contained within God prior to creation?
The life of us is still in God.
So then it's not external to God.
It's not external. It's internal, because
right,
our
so
life
then
is within.
Then God is still alone. In the same way that, like, my small intestine is within me. That doesn't mean I'm not alone when I'm in an empty room.
No, there's no like materiality, but there's life, right? The eternal.
Sure, but it's just
life.
within him, which means that he's alone in the sense of there's nothing else external to him aside from him,
except the lives of other.
But those are within
creation.
him, right? Those are a part of him. They're not separate things.
Yeah, sure, you could say a part of him.
Right, so like, you don't consider the parts of a thing. By the way, hold on. You don't want to say that. You don't think that God is divinely simple, do you?
He's simple and complex.
That seems like a direct contradiction. We'll have to circle back to that. But once we get over this hump. So you have things that are a part of him. And you don't have anything that's not a part of him. Right?
True. Yeah.
Okay. So in the same way that, like, you know, I have a trillion bacteria in my gut and I have all of my organs and these are all a part of me, that doesn't mean it's impossible for me to be alone.
Well, that would be, you wouldn't be alone. The thing is the bacteria.
It's in me. They're in me. So like, I would still be alone if there's nothing outside of me.
I mean, sure, you can use that definition. I could say, sure, then that's what alone means.
Yeah.
But
so in that case, God, there was a state of affairs where God was alone, meaning there was nothing that wasn't within God. And then, you know, after creation, there was a state of affairs where there was something that there was something that existed that wasn't within God. So like, it seems like there's some propositional knowledge that must have changed there.
No, I would say there'd be no change of God's aloneness or whatever. I think he's in the same state.
So after creation, there is like an external stuff aside from God, right?
Yeah, but while he creates this, he enters into it as well at the same moment.
How does
Incarnate.
he do? How does he do anything if he's timeless?
How does he do anything if he's timeless?
Yeah.
He still has actions.
How does he do actions if he's timeless?
You can still have movement. And
how do you have movement if you're timeless?
Those would be the divine energies.
So magic?
Well, you call it what you want, but that would be divine action, divine energy.
I just don't, like, that sounds like a non-explanation to me. Like, you're telling me that, like, this atemporal thing, this thing that exists without time, is somehow still able to take actions, which colloquially we understand as things that take time, to move, which again colloquially we understand as something that takes time. I just don't, I can't make sense of any of this.
It doesn't take time, it's beyond time.
The motion absolutely takes time, right? That's what motion is.
No, not
motion,
divine,
motion is
no,
changing
not
position
divine
over time.
motion. So divine motion takes 0 time.
What is divine motion?
It's motion that exists outside of space and time.
Why should I think that such a thing is, like, conceptually even, like, logical?
Why? Well,
Like,
how is it
like,
conceptually
it sounds like
illogical?
oh, well, because you're, at least the way that I so what is it if not being at different places at different times?
That's the way that we understand movement.
Yeah, so what is what you understand as movement?
It is
for
that. That would
for
be
this divine movement or whatever.
That would be natural movement for, like, creation. That's the way that creation moves. But
okay, so then what does it mean when God moves?
What does it mean? It doesn't require time. It doesn't require space.
So then what you're telling me what it doesn't mean? I'm asking what it does mean.
I can only tell you what it doesn't mean.
Then you're not telling me at all.
What? How? How am I not telling you?
Because, like, the number 6 doesn't require time or space, but, like, that doesn't tell me what the number 6 is.
But you're using words like atemporal or whatever, so that's a negative. So I mean,
well, I can tell you what an atemporal state of affairs is. It is exactly like the state of affairs that we have here, and there's no time dimension. And so I can describe it entirely mathematically. It's purely spatial, for example, if you wanted to have pure space without time.
So God's movement is atemporal.
Okay, so right. So I agree that that's what you're trying to say. I just don't know what the movement means.
Well, we think of it as movement, but it really is not a good depiction of what.
So then what is it?
It's something. It's something that.
But that seems
just because it's divine nature.
I don't know what that means. It just sounds like you're saying that there's, like, this thing that nobody understands, but it must be true. Like, why would anyone agree to that?
Well, because we recognize our limited nature, you know.
But then how could you ever be anything but skeptical of this? Like, if you clearly like if you don't understand it, because apparently nobody can, then, like, why would you ever be, confident in your beliefs?
Because I'm confident that there's something beyond my limited nature. Like, that's something to be confident in.
You can be confident in that and have no confidence whatsoever about a God existing.
Sure, but I'm just telling you certain things are presupposed, but I'm telling you there's nothing illogical about what I'm saying.
Well, it's hard to say that anything is logical or illogical if you can't even give me a definition.
What would you like me to define?
Divine movement.
Divine movement.
Yep. Or alternatively, you could define timeless actions.
I mean, you're already defining it. Movement that does not movement outside or beyond time and place.
Okay, but so if that's the definition that you offer, and the definition of movement is changing location, given it's actually just changing location, then it seems like that there is a direct contradiction there, that it is impossible to have changing location with that, or to have movement, which is a change in location, without space.
So that's not my definition, though. Like
Then
it
what's your
works for
definition of
us.
movement?
Well, that doesn't work because there's no location outside of time.
So
and
then you
space.
can't give me a definition of movement that does work.
But you want me to use limited nature to define something that is not.
I just want you to give me a definition. Give me a definition that isn't like that isn't obviously contradictory with the other claim that you've made about what divine movement is. So your definition of divine movement is movement that happens without time or space. Fine. Now I need a definition of movement that doesn't contradict or that doesn't make divine movement automatically contradictory.
Okay, I see. That which moves.
That doesn't help me.
That which moves things.
I
doesn't have to
You're
move
using
things.
the word moves in the definition of movement.
Okay, so you want me to? Can I describe what move means?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. This is divine territory, so I'm sorry, but there's no reason I can't make this assumption.
The assumption of what? You can't even evaluate whether it's logically consistent if you don't know what the word means.
I do know what movement means in our nature.
Okay, but
I'm talking about
that meaning of movement is obviously contradictory with the compound notion divine movement. So in the context of divine movement, you don't know what the word movement means.
Sure. So divine movement, or how about operation? Does operation work better for this?
Rather than movement?
Movement does not work as good as, it doesn't necessarily work in describing, God and his.
So what's the operation
action
that we're
or-
because what we were referring to is like God, moving from atemporality to within the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what operation are you referring to now?
Well, like,
I mean, like
the Eastern.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The Eastern Fathers use the word energy and the divine energies.
Okay, I don't really know what that means, but like, so what's the thing what's the operation that's in contention here? Like, what operation do you think that God takes atemporally, or that God performs atemporally?
The operation of creation or sanctifying all of these things.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So it's like an action, right?
Yeah, you could
That's
say
what you mean.
act.
Okay, so can you give me a definition of action that makes sense in an atemporal way?
Well, action does not have to cause, but it can.
Okay, but that's unrelated to my question, right?
Okay, sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, can you give me a definition or like at least some way that I can grab on to what you mean by action here if you're referring to something that's atemporal?
Okay, let's see. Maybe you give a definition that we can work with, because I don't know how else to define it other than rotate between action, energy, movement, all of this stuff.
So generally I would say that an action is some process that has a beginning and an end and a middle, during which perhaps some goal is achieved or some physical change is instantiated, something along those lines.
So would you say that action has to have a beginning and an end?
Yeah. And a middle.
Where is the proof for this?
I mean, that's just what I mean when that's just what I don't know, like this is just how people use the word. Like, is there a kind of action that doesn't take any time that you can give me an example of?
Well, so this is where I think it can fit nicely into the divine understanding of action, the possibility of an action that does not have a beginning or an end.
Right, but
and if
I don't understand what an action is if it doesn't take time.
That doesn't necessarily matter, because we're talking in our limited nature about something that's beyond our capability. but it does not necessarily mean that it's impossible.
I mean, like, so I can just give you a like a definition if you want from the dictionary, if you didn't like my definition. The first one is the fact or process of doing something, typically to achieve an aim. The second one is a thing done, an act. So an act is not particularly helpful.
Sure.
But both of these imply either the doing or having done something, and these are time words, right? They imply either a present tense, doing something, or a past tense, that something happened in the past.
Yes, that's good. So God can do stuff, but his doings is not simply just creation. There's also other doings.
But how can God do stuff if there's no time in which to do them?
Did it say in that definition that do requires time?
Well, no, this was a definition. This was a definition for action, not a definition for doing. But
okay,
sorry, one sec. I just got an important text.
We're good.
Sorry about that. What were we talking? One sec. What were we talking about? Oh, doing, right? So like clearly, like we agree that like doing is a process, right? That's what it means to like when you're doing something. It ends in ing. That's just what the words mean.
Yeah, sure, it's a process.
And processes are things that take place in time?
Not necessarily.
How can you have a process if there's no time?
I mean, does the definition of process require time?
Yeah, kinda. First definition that I found from Googling, a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. So there's an end, and then there's a series of actions. Where are those series located? In time.
Okay, so I think this is where
do you think that you can have a series of actions without time? In which case, how do you differentiate them from being in one order as opposed to another order?
Okay, here's what. So we see the world with like telos or end is as in front of us, but God sees the world as telos or end is in front, behind him. It doesn't freaking matter where it is.
No, I understand that. I understand that God sees the entire timeline. I'm asking about in his atemporal state. When he exists completely without time, how is he doing anything? Where is how are the steps in the series of actions? How are those steps delineated and separated from each other? How do you have a series? Like, where's the sequence coming from if not time?
I would say that his doings within creation would definitely be through the life of Christ, but that does not limit all of his doings to, within creation, because who knows what else. I'm
talking about the timeless stuff, right? The stuff that happens when he's doing timeless stuff. I can't make sense of that because it seems like all of this stuff, all of the ways that we think about these notions, these concepts, like, actions and processes and, all of this stuff, they all require a notion of time. So I can't make sense of any of it. Like, I can't find any reason why I should think that there's even a sensible way to make sense of what these notions would be like in a timeless environment.
Well, okay, I get what you're saying, but it just comes down to we do not know the essence of something that's far beyond us, right? Like, I know you in the way that I'm talking to you, but I don't know your essence. So if I don't know God's essence,
I'm not sure I even grant like some sort of essence exists at all, but that's fine.
Sure. I mean, essence, I would say essence is, I don't want to dig too far away from what we're talking about, but so essence would be the whatness, wayness, and then nature would be the wayness, right? Nature requires movement, but to talk about the essence of God, that goes outside of the concept of
Okay,
movement.
that's
right?
fine. So like, look, it sounds like what you're saying is that this is just like mysterious, in which case you can't even evaluate whether it's logical or not.
Well, I think it's logical to say that to assume that there's something beyond our limited nature.
I don't know how you would, when you say it's logical, you just mean that there's not some contradiction?
Well, I think the other guy was saying there's a cap to our conception.
Yeah, okay.
There's a
I mean,
periphery.
look, that's at least logically possible. I can make sense of there being things to know that we cannot, that we will never know. That's like logically possible. But you're proposing that there is a kind of thing that we can't even make sense of. And if I just told you that there's like a florp, right? There's this thing called a florp. And try as I might, I can't explain it to you. And I don't even really understand it myself. It's just mysterious. Are you then in a good position to evaluate whether the florp is logically possible or not?
I see what you're saying.
So like it just seems like because the thing is so unknowable, it seems like that we can't even have like a rigorous discussion about whether it's possible or not, let alone whether it's probable.
Sure, but I guess I would have to flip that around. There's nothing that you could say that it's impossible either.
Yeah, because I can't evaluate it one way or the other.
Yeah, but we use our nature to evaluate things of our similar nature.
Sure.
So it's completely logical for me to assume that there's another nature that rests behind ours.
Well, yeah, but it should. So when you say logical, when you say it's completely logical for you to assume this, I don't know how that follows. Like, it's not like.
Yeah,
it's not guaranteed to be logically impossible, but that doesn't mean it's logical for you to assume that it exists.
Okay, fair enough. Well, no, it is logical because I'm recognizing, the stuff that I have, and I recognize its limits.
Right.
It is.
So just recognizing the limits of something doesn't therefore imply that there is something greater than it.
Fair enough.
Anything else, Colin, or should we call it there?
I would call it there, but I do think I just don't see any problem with having faith in something that I can't see. But I think it was a good discussion.
Thanks for being here, Colin.
Thanks.
Just to clarify, it wasn't like, I don't see, like, you can have a faith in something that you can't see. I just don't see how you can come to, like, how you can, like, look, faith is exactly the kind of thing where you don't analyze something critically and rigorously. And like, look, if that's for you, that's for you. It's just not for me. His name was Cullen. Cullen. All right, let's read some super chats and we'll move on to our next guest. From Billy the Minion with the $5, I challenge the assumption that change can't occur outside of time. Time is a measurement, not change itself. A gallon of water isn't water itself. I mean, then you just have to offer a different definition of change. That's all. From Joshua Recovers with the $5, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, 3 in 1 simultaneously. God was never alone. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. Well, look, I appreciate you sending me money so that you could preach. From Binary Ghost with the $5, quote, I am alone, unquote. When you have all these other organs is just a brain-centric view. You should consider freeing yourself of such egoism. That's a good point. I am not alone. I am always surrounded by my skin. And who else is my best friend except my skin? Nobody on fire with the $2. Oop, I should hide that because you're getting a big picture of my ear. Guessed, it's the unmoved mover, not unmoving mover. Close enough. And from Ereboros, or with the $5, could God exist in a separate temporal dimension? He performs his act of creation outside of our space-time, but still within a temporal dimension. Yes. Yes, that is definitely true. That is something that I've told to some theists, that they should not hold an atemporal view of God, that they should hold an extra temporal view of God, where God is outside of our time dimension, but exists within his own temporal dimension. Absolutely. That eliminates a lot of the problems. From Aaron Leitz with the $10. It is always so annoying when apologists insert words like spiritual or divine and then assume those cult terms allow them to ignore logic. Yeah, all it does is it muddies the waters, and that's the problem. And from Joshua sending a trophy cake on TikTok. Thank you so much, Joshua. All right, let us bring up our next guest. I think Kaiser Shoes has been kind of like tweaking in the comments. Let's bring him up. Kaiser, how's it going?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So
do you believe in a God?
I'm not a believer. Yes and no. I'm not a believer, but my argument or my stance comes from like a different perspective where it really doesn't matter. And like you say in the text, like oppositionally, can you convince me to believe in something, or or maybe the opposite? So what I'm seeking to is more than trying to break this down deductively by with logic.
Hold on. So just to be clear.
Yeah.
The question is not just can you convince me, it's can you convince me to believe in your God, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and my
presumably,
God
so who is your God?
Yeah, my God could be anything.
Well, no. So I need you to tell me who your God is so that I can know what you're going to try to convince me of.
Okay, I can convince you of that there can be many gods and also not many gods at the same time.
Well,
which
wait,
is
so you think that you can convince me to affirm a true true proposition or a true contradiction rather?
I think I can. I think I can absolutely convince you to that exactly if you don't set the rules for limitations in how I'm supposed to do that. Because you like your first question is like, yeah, like I don't have to have a special God.
Well, but then it just doesn't sound like you're like doing what the prompt is asking you to do.
No, but like the debate you just had with the other guy, like you're saying,
right?
Like,
he was trying to convince me of the Christian God.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is the basis you're doing that.
Oh yeah, I have Discord guests. That's right. I will tend to my Discord guests. Yeah, I'll just kick that guy. All right, let's bring up our Discord guests. I'm sorry, Discord guests. I always forget that you guys exist. All right, let's bring up Jeepers. Jeepers Creepers. Got on mute. Oh, I can't hear you, but that's my fault. I know that everybody else can hear you. Okay, now I should be able to hear you. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Jeepers. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty all right. How are you?
I'm doing a-okay. Jeepers, do you believe in a God?
I believe in a God that I know rather than, a God from text. Like I believe that that God shouldn't be something stuck to a stagnant image. Like our God should be measurable. You know what I mean by that?
I mean, look, that sounds great to me.
Right.
Yeah, so
like,
right, so what's this God then that you're referring to?
Well, I'd say that my God is my interface between, myself and self-knowledge. Like I believe in Jesus. I also, know that it cannot be defined by a book because my connection to God is through differentiation of my own material aspects into
Maybe you can just
interpret
clarify.
it
Do you think
into
that there was a being that created the universe?
a being that created the universe?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
maybe.
Maybe? Do you think that there's a being that's like the foundation of the universe, or like the grounding of the universe? The grounding of reality?
Yeah, because I mean we all hold the same type of patterns and behavior, and we're all exposed to the same type.
So can you offer me an argument then for this thing that you believe in?
Well, an argument?
Yeah, like some sort of compelling reason.
Do you believe that to differentiate your emotions is necessary for discernment?
To differentiate, that's a question, not a argument.
Well, it points at something.
Okay, then just make the point.
Right. So I mean cosmology shouldn't be argued to, as a definite creator or source, or it loses all value.
I don't know where this is going, but I think that we're gonna move on. Will Day, how's it going? Will
Doing
Day.
well. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Will Day. Do you believe in a god, Will Day?
I do actually.
Okay. And which one would that be?
Not any particular one really. Just kind of the whole idea of there being something that created everything that there is.
There being something that created
And
everything that there is. Okay, yeah, sure. Why should I believe that that's true?
The only argument that I've heard from a philosopher named Alan Watts, where he said that if you yourself are intelligent, then you can't be the product of a meaningless universe or a universe without intelligence. Therefore, intelligence is a property of the universe, and that there, by extension, could be an intelligent being that created the universe.
Why should I believe that intelligence can't arise from a non-intelligent universe?
I guess you don't really have to. I just think that intelligence and consciousness being a property of the universe could point to there being something, a higher intelligence than ourselves,
maybe, but it's
that may
not
have originated.
I mean, like maybe yes, maybe no, but it just doesn't seem to lean one side or the other. It just makes it a possibility that, you know, there is intelligence, so there could be other intelligence. Like, okay, sure, I grant that because we're intelligent, there could be other intelligence, but why should that make me believe that there is some intelligent creator?
I guess you don't have to. I kind of really just wanted to make that point because that's just how I feel about the issue. I'm a mathematician myself. I
What field
focus
are you
on
in, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. What's that?
What field are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to say I'm a mathematician. I just graduated with a bachelor's in mathematics. I'm going to pursue my PhD in mathematical physics. So I've been to a lot of your physics talks and everything.
Well,
so
hey,
definitely evidence-based on all of this.
So Will, I'm going to let you go, but you now have my Discord. So if you have any questions about grad school, if you have any questions about like admissions process or anything, feel free to DM me. I'm happy to talk.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Good luck, man.
Thanks.
All right, let's bring up Samuel. Samuel. Oh, Samuel left. No, come back. Samuel, come back.
Hey, sorry.
You're good. Samuel, do you believe in a god?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and which one would that be, if you don't mind me asking?
The one written in the Bible.
Okay, the Christian Bible, the Jewish Bible.
Oh, the Christian Bible.
Okay, cool. Why should I believe that that God exists?
Sorry, I'm fighting a cold right now.
No, you're fine.
I mean, I reached my faith over process of just looking into science, and especially astronomy.
Okay, yeah, what about it?
I feel like there's so much looking in space. Like, I looked at nebulae.
Mm-hmm.
And just the number of nebulas that you can see in the night sky through telescopes line up with the timeline of the Bible. Or
how do you figure?
Looking just...
How do you figure? Like, what's the relationship there?
Sorry, I'm not great at public speaking.
You're fine. Pretend everybody else is naked.
Nebulas. I just froze up.
It's okay. Look, Samuel, I do this live like at least once a week. If you want to come back next time, I'll try to bring you up, okay? If you want to, like, just prepare, just so you have something prepared so that it's easier with the stage fright. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Good luck,
Sorry
Samuel.
for taking your time.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Chill. Look, there are a lot of people. Between all of the live streams, there are, I don't know, probably over 1,000 people listening, and so like stage fright is normal, especially if you don't do this as, like, you know, a thing that you do frequently. So like, it's fine. Roland Arthur.
Hey, good day.
Good day, Roland. Do you believe in a god?
I believe in many.
Okay.
Okay.
And why should I believe in the many gods that you believe in?
Now I want to sell you one god in particular.
Okay, which one?
The flying spaghetti monster.
Oh, well.
I have heard you speak.
No, we're not doing that. Joker is currently playing Counter-Strike, so let's talk to Billy the Minion. Billy the Minion, how's it going?
Hey, it's going very well. It's great to be on.
Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting. So Billy, do you believe in a god?
I do.
And which one would that be, just so I can have some clarification here?
It's not really a common definition. It's not a religion or a god based on religion.
Okay, so tell me what it is.
I'm sorry. Okay. So first, I think that I need to minimize the picture here. I was watching the stream. I think that what might be best to talk about first is atemporality from the conversations you were having earlier, because
So
my understanding
I will
of
only
what
have
God
that
is-
conversation with you if you first tell me what it is that God is that you believe in.
Well, I've told you in chat before, I believe in a God that is love, and I believe that God is force and wisdom, and when force and wisdom meet, then that's where love is born.
So when you say God is love, do you mean like it's identical to love, or do you mean that it has love as one of its proper parts, or do you mean that it is loving, or that it defines love? Like what's the?
So that's part of the whole big picture to talk about, right? Because I think that a lot of people don't understand love as I do. We all have different perspectives. As I understand love, it is an energy, and I know that's not your favorite thing to talk about, but it's something that I have been able to feel and etc. in meditation, and there's a lot to that. We can talk about that, but it involves the larger picture, which involves an atemporal space where change can happen. So
Wait,
I'm
so
down
do you
with
think?
tackling
So
this
do you
in
think
whatever way
this?
you want.
Do you think that this being? Do you think that God rather created the universe?
I think that
In fact, do
God
you think it's
is-
a being at all, or do you think it's just like some
I think
property of the universe?
I think that God is the source of consciousness, and I think that it is a being.
Okay.
And I think that God created us, and we created the universe.
I mean, like, I don't know what you mean by that. It seems pretty.
Yeah.
Seems pretty plausible that like the universe existed before we did. So.
Well, so again, I have this very unique perspective. It's a very large picture to paint, and so it's hard to find where to break in. I would like to I mean, I can paint the background. I can talk about God outside of time and how we came to be as consciousness and how we grew in that
How did
space.
we create the
And
universe? That's what I would like to hear about.
perfect. Okay, great starting point. So I'm going to paint a little bit of background. It won't take long. So from my perspective, God was, and we didn't understand it, obviously, just as we do now, right? And so God is consciousness. Then God propagated, and God created smaller forms of consciousness that were in God's image. As these consciousnesses experienced where they were, which in my perspective is outside of this universe, they are curious beings. They like to learn, they want to expand. And so they tried lots of things, experienced lots of things, created lots of things. From my perspective, these consciousness beings got to a certain point of sophistication to where they realized, hey, we don't exactly know how God was born. And also, we have always been connected to love. We always feel this love. It's like having sight, but only being able to see blue, right? You want that contrast to understand the differences and to learn. And so a group of advanced beings, consciousness beings that have the ability to create these explorations got together and said, hey, let's do an experiment. Let's do an experiment to see if love can identify itself and choose love from a blank slate of not knowing who it is, not knowing that the beings themselves are love. And
Am I
that
crazy,
experiment,
or does this sound like a lot like the cosmology for Lord of the Rings?
I have no idea. I haven't read that cosmology or heard about it. But I would like to continue if that's all right.
Go ahead, but try to land the plane if you can.
Yeah, I'm about to.
Okay, thank you.
And so these beings got together to perform this experiment. That experiment is this entire universe. Those beings were us. And so we wanted to create this universe to see, okay, can love identify itself and choose itself from a blank slate? In my opinion, from my perspective, that is why there is no conclusive proof to either prove or disprove God. And because this whole thing, this whole universe was designed to be able to forget that connection and not know where we came from.
So why should I think any of this is true?
Mainly because it's so I feel from what I've learned of you that you're a seeker. You're actually looking for answers and you're open to
I'm looking for reasons, right? And I'm looking for answers with reasons.
Yeah. And
so what's the reason? You're offering me the answer, fine. What's the reason why I should think that this is the correct answer?
Well, it's really optional. And the reason why you might want to is because there's lots of benefits to it. Lots of health benefits, lots of peace.
I want the reason why I should think it's true.
Well, that's up to you. So here's the thing. Love is non-coercive. So as opposed to things like
look, Billy, I'm sorry. The question is can you convince me? So you got to offer the reasons, right? It's not enough to just say, well, you can. You could just choose to. Like, I want the reasons. All right, let's read some super chats and we'll move on to our next guest. Billy actually just sent a super chat, or at least sent a super chat 14 minutes ago. About change existing outside of time, I would be happy to give you another definition of change. I'm waiting in the Discord lobby to chat with you. Well, we didn't get there because it doesn't sound like you actually want to convince me. From Lady Still Dreaming with the $2, if we talk to inner critters, we are never alone. There you go. From Tim Davidson with the $2, what would Kyle Ren do? What would Keanu Reeves do? Nice. From Iraboros with the $5, my view of God is fairly unique and impossible to convince someone of, so I will not come up, but would you discuss in Discord at some point? Perhaps, but I don't spend a whole lot of time in Discord, just because, like, it eats up so much time. From Piranha Kill with the $2, as someone who loves acid, this guy needs less. Come on, don't do that to him. From Gretchen with the $3.11, oh, I get it, God equals oxytocin, check. Well, look, if that was all he was saying, then I would have agreed. From Binary Ghosts again with the $5, personally, I think Scientology was correct. It is my dream to move to Clearwater, Florida and join the Sea Org. May all our thetan levels reduce. Right? It does sound like a good story. And finally from Dr. Fudge with the $10, I'm never alone. I have my friend Terry the Tapeworm. True. Tapeworms are your friends. No, it's not true. That's not true. Tapeworms are dangerous. Don't get them on purpose. All right, let's talk to Grayson D. Smith. Grayson, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing A-okay, Grayson. Grayson, do you believe in a God?
Yes, I believe in the Christian God.
Okay, cool. So why should I believe in the Christian God?
I imagine you've had enough of this argument by now, but the existence of the universe implies a God.
How do you figure?
I think that, could we agree that for a creation to exist, there has to be a creator?
Sure. I would just not call the universe a creation, right?
What would you?
I would just call it the universe. It already has a name.
Is it eternal?
Could be.
But you have no, like, definitive way of knowing if it is or isn't?
Well, at least not yet. It's not like out of the question that we could never figure it out. But like, yeah, we don't know definitively one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no like, it's not any more certain that there isn't a creator than it is that there is a creator.
Well, hold on. Just because the universe has a finite, even if the universe did have a finite past, that doesn't therefore imply that the universe has a creator.
How would something come from nothing?
Well, suppose that there was never nothing. There was just a state of timelessness that gave rise in a geometric way to a state of timefulness.
By nothing, I mean nothing physical.
I know. I'm not
Something
talking about any. I don't think there ever was nothing. I think that it's possible before I put that in big air quotes, before the first moment of time, that there was just a timeless state of affairs.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
It seems at least possible to me that before, in big air quotes, before the first moment of time, there was a timeless state of affairs.
A state of affairs for what?
Of the universe. The universe was in a timeless state of affairs.
But before the physical universe?
Yeah, I mean, there would have been like space and stuff, and perhaps stuff in the space. It's just timeless.
Somewhere, right?
Sorry? By the way, your microphone is like really kind of crap, so like...
Sorry about that. Is that any better? I don't know.
It's just kind of quiet and muffled.
Sorry. I don't know what I can do about that.
That's better.
Oh, perfect.
Maybe just speak up. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I mean is that like there could just be a timeless state of affairs of the universe, right?
But I'm asking about physical matter. Is physical matter eternal, or did that have a beginning point?
Well, look, the physical matter could have had a first moment of time, and then before that, big air quotes for what I mean by before, and I can elaborate on it if you need the technical details, but before that, the matter was timeless.
But the matter existed eternally.
Well, it wouldn't be eternal if it's timeless.
There was never a point where the matter began to exist.
Right. But
So
there was no time
I
at
thought
all,
earlier-
so I wouldn't say that it was eternal. Eternal typically means that it exists for all time or for eternity in both directions back and forth, but like into the past into the future. But I would just say that it just exists in a timeless state of affairs.
Earlier, you were saying that for something to exist, for change to happen,
Mhm.
time would have to exist.
Yeah. That's still true.
Yeah, so for matter to exist, at some point, either that matter started or that matter changed forms in some way. Matter is never stagnant. So there
Why
would have
not?
to be time if matter exists.
Why can't you have timeless matter?
I don't think matter is capable of staying stagnant. There's
Why
always
not?
change happening.
I mean, like we can describe the laws of physics for timeless matter, no problem.
I would imagine like entropy would.
There is entropy, but the entropy is unchanging in a timeless state of affairs.
So no change is happening
Right.
to the matter. The matter
Right.
is completely stagnant in all ways.
Right.
And then what would cause that matter to then undergo change?
It's not a cause. It's more of like a geometric relationship. So the way to think about this is, maybe I'll give an analogy. So you know how like if you start at the North Pole of the Earth, right? I hope you're not a flat earther, by the way. You're not a flat earther, are you?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Okay, just checking. If you start at the North Pole of the Earth, then your latitude is 90 degrees north, right? Kind of by definition, that's what it means to be at the North Pole. And then you start walking south. And for a very, very long time, maybe you take a boat or take a plane, whatever it is, your latitude is still north. It's 85 degrees north, then 80 degrees north, then 75 degrees north, and so on. But at some point, your latitude is not north anymore. It's south now. Now it's 10 degrees south, or it's 30 degrees south, or whatever. But there wasn't like a cause of your perhaps it's a bad analogy, but there wasn't like a cause of like some places being north of the equator and some places being south of the equator. That's just like a geometric relationship. There are some places that are north and there are some places that are south, and they're just related.
It's a relative statement if you have like something to compare it to.
Well, my point is that like there's like an abrupt shift between north and south, which is like when you get to the equator, and that shift isn't like, it's not like caused by, it's not like a temporal thing that happened and that was like caused. It's rather just like a geometric relationship, right? There's just a relationship between north and south, and if you go south while you're in north, then you end up in south, and if you go north while you're in south, then you end up in north, and that's just like the geometry of the world. And so what I'm suggesting is that you could have a geometric relationship kind of like that between the timeless state of affairs and the timeful state of affairs.
I know you said it was an analogy, but there's like, I don't think it's really comparable because there's no physical change happening in.
Right, I'm not suggesting that there's a physical.
Describing it as south.
I'm not suggesting that there's a so, I mean, there is a physical change that's happening in some sense. Like there is a difference between the two states of affairs, right? There is on the one hand you're north, and on the other hand you're south. Now, if you want another example, though, I can give you a diagram. It's just a little bit less straightforward of an analogy, but I can show you a diagram if that'd be helpful.
That might be more helpful, yeah.
Yeah. Let me show you. Come on, don't freeze on me. Don't freeze on me. I did just get a new computer. I hope it can handle this. Okay, it unfroze. We're good. Where's this diagram? It's not quite that one. Here we go. Okay, there's a lot of labels on this diagram. Don't really worry about them. I'll explain the relevant bits.
Okay.
Right, so you should be able to see it.
Yep.
So the way to think about this is that like this is the shape of the universe, right? This this kind of badminton thing shaped thing is like the shape of the universe, and we exist somewhere like way up here. Think of us as like living on the surface of this like shape, right? We exist like somewhere way up here.
That top purple plane.
Yeah. Well, not on the plane. We exist on like the outside bit, right?
Okay.
Now, if you run the clock back, you'll go back further and further this way. But then there's a transition that happens. If you keep following that same trajectory, it stops being time. Like there's a genuine change, a genuine kind of change in behavior between this purple region and the yellow region. And the yellow region has the geometry of not having any time, and the purple region has the geometry of having time. And there's just a smooth transition between the two as a result of the way that they're joined together.
Okay.
And so that's roughly what I'm suggesting. It seems at least possible that you could have that there's not really a cause for why, if you go this way, you go from only space to space and time. It's just that they're joined together that way.
There's not like time isn't a thing that objectively exists. Like time is something that we define the measurements for. Like a year isn't a thing that exists. We've defined that.
No, but the dimension of time is as real as the dimensions of space, right?
Yeah, but I guess it was supposed to be a question, but it wasn't. So, like, is that saying that time, as we measure it, like, it's no longer measurable at this point?
No.
It just does not exist.
So the way that we talk about time in, like, when we do like physics, is we talk about time as being distinguished from space in a very particular way. There's something called a signature, and when the signature of time is opposite, or when the signature of one dimension is opposite the signature of the other dimensions, we say that there's a time dimension and then the rest are space dimensions. But the point is that in this picture, the signature just changes. It's the signature. The signature here is one of the dimensions has a signature that's negative, and the rest are positive. And as a result of the geometry, one of the signatures in this yellow region are all positive. So there's just no time. There just isn't a time.
Could you explain what a signature of a dimension is?
Sorry. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. You can, without getting into the details, all I can say is it is the mathematical way that we distinguish between spatial dimensions and temporal dimensions.
Okay.
It's like a mathematical thing. I know that's not helpful.
I understand that.
But what I'm saying is that, like, you can just think of like tracing out a line on this like badminton thing, and you would just say that, like, oh well, it looks like everything behaves as if I don't want to say behaves. You would just say, oh well, there's no time, and then here something strange happens. The signature changes, And then now there's time. And that's just a geometric fact.
And this is like, is this a theory or is this like a proven, like
this is an idea that Stephen Hawking had like 40 years ago. But I'm not trying to say that this is definitely how our universe is. What I'm trying to say is that this is at least like a plausible or like a possible way that the universe could be. So even if there is
exist in the Euclidean
area? Yeah. So the point is that the beginning of time would be this boundary between the yellow and the purple, right? And so there would be a beginning of time. Sorry?
Do we know what marks that boundary?
Yeah, it's just how it's essentially the way that the curvature changes. You can kind of see it here.
How does the curvature cause time to begin?
I mean, it's complicated. Keep in mind, this is Stephen Hawking. He was a smart guy. But there is a way to make sense of this, and I promise I'm not just lying to you for views. Like, there's a way to make sense of this that people at least, like, you know, who's to say that it's actually like correct? But at least people have thought about this seriously as like a possibility.
Okay, gotcha. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and so all I'm saying is that like it's at least a serious possibility that like you could have a first moment of time, which would be like this boundary place, and then before that, if you were to kind of follow back the same path, you would just be in a place where there's no time. It's just completely static, and they're just kind of joined up geometrically rather than joined up in like a temporal order.
Okay, so what's the point at the bottom of the Euclidean area?
It's just like in this picture, it's just like the middle.
Like that's not an origin point, that's not a beginning?
No, because there's no time, right? It's just the middle.
Yeah. I was just trying to understand what the bottom would mean in that
case. In this case, it's literally just like you can just think of it as like a ball, and the ball has a middle.
Okay. That's interesting. I've never heard that argument articulated that way.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying that this is definitely true. I think like the original idea did have some issues. People have kind of reworked it so it doesn't have those issues, but it's more complicated now. But the idea, I think the idea of like a geometric relationship rather than a causal relationship between timelessness and, you know, a time-full universe, I think that that's actually totally possible. I think that the issue but I think that's probably the only way that you can have a timeless state and have a timeless universe and also a universe with time that both somehow are like compatible with each other.
Okay. But in that transition from no time to time, I would imagine there's still a force necessary to initiate change in that universe.
Not really. Right? It's not really. It's just that there is a first moment of time because that's what the geometry is there. The geometry is such that that turning point is the first moment of time.
Yeah, but then something causes change in time. Like something affects the matter, causing it to change, right?
I don't follow.
Like, regardless of if time exists or not, something acted on matter, causing it to change.
Oh, this wasn't a matter thing that happened, though. This wasn't a thing that happened to the matter that made the matter be timeful. This was like a whole universe thing. It's just the geometrical relationship between the timeless and the timeful part. And so if you have matter that's in the timeless part, it's in the timeless part. If you have matter that's in the timeful part, it's in the timeful part.
Yeah, I'm saying like just because all I'm really able to understand is the timeful part. Like within the timeful part, something acted on matter causing it to change, right?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, once you have stuff in time, it makes sense to start talking about time. Or sorry, it makes sense to start talking about causes.
Yeah, that's kind of I'm just limiting it to that.
Yeah. And the point is that I think that you can probably only talk about causes if you can talk about if there's a time before the event that you're trying to talk about causes for, right? But the point is that at this boundary point, there just is no time before, so you can't talk about the cause of that. You can kind of talk around it in terms of like geometry, but you can't talk about like some sort of temporal cause.
Well, I was just saying because earlier you said that for change to happen, there has to be time. Change necessitates.
Yeah. So what I was using there is I was using the Aristotelian notion of change, which is how most people that I talk to consider it. So it's an internal critique. My view on time is rather that it's a way of distinguishing events that are spatially co-located. And in that case, you don't necessarily need time. And so like if you take that view, then you don't need in that view, change doesn't even exist. But if you think that change exists, then it's really hard to say that it's really hard to make sense of what changes in a curved universe like the one we live in.
Okay, but I assume we both agree that change exists.
I think it's an illusion.
Could you explain that? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in the same way that like, so I'm a B theorist. So my view is that all moments of time are equally realized, and that change is merely an experience that you know, things have at different moments of time. It's not like it's not something with like ontological status. It's just like change is a description, perhaps. Change is just a way of saying this thing is different from that thing. But I don't think that it's a thing in itself.
So it's one thing. It's not like a separate thing. Is that?
Yeah. So I would just say that change is like a useful description, or like a I would say it's like a useful description for and perhaps a illusory description for the way that things are different at different moments of space-time.
The way that things are different. But the difference is not absolute. It's just like a perception difference.
No, I think that there can be actual differences. I just think that all of those things already exist. So it's not like there's like some process happening. It's just that the whole set already exists. The past is connected to the present, which is connected to the future. They all exist. All of the states of affairs are already realized.
Oh, that's really interesting. How were those states of affairs determined? Like, what caused them to exist?
Well, that I would say it's probably some consistency relation between them. Namely, that this is probably my view is that this is the only way that they could have been without having any sort of built-in inconsistency.
Only way they could have been without inconsistency according to what? What are they consistent with?
Just like some sort of like the way that they are. Right.
And nothing
so like
caused them to be the way that they are. They just
I suspect
are the way they
not.
are, and they can't violate the way that they are.
I suspect so, yeah.
But you don't think there's anything that caused like set those standards for what they are, how they operate?
I don't know why I would. I mean, it seems plausible that things have properties and they don't have the properties they don't have, and they will be the way that they are and they won't be the way that they aren't.
So all of these things exist in accordance with a set of rules that can't be violated, but there's nothing that established those rules or set those things in motion or caused anything, that is.
Well, look, I don't think that there's like some rules that are governing them. I think merely that like there are ways things are and there are ways that things are not. And the way things are, they're going to act accordingly, right? They are a certain way, so they're going to do what the way that they are suggests.
But you have no idea as to why they are the way that they are.
Well, if they were different, then they'd be different things.
But you have no idea why they are the way that they are.
Well, I think that they are this way because if they were different, then they would be different. So they are the way that
would be different if they were different. But why are they not different? Why are they what they are?
Who's to say that they're not different? There's a lot of different things. Are you asking like why is this specific electron not a quark?
You're saying you have no way of knowing, or there's a set of principles that can't be violated, things that are dictating why things behave the way they do, but there's nothing that established those principles.
I don't think I don't think that there's anything dictating anything, right? I think that there are ways that things are. You can call them dispositions, if you will, and those dispositions inform on the way they behave.
But the dispositions don't come from nothing. They have to come from somewhere, right?
They're an intrinsic part of the thing.
But the thing has to come from somewhere. At some point, like, these things have to be established. They can't just always exist.
Well, I mean, look, so either the universe has always existed, in which case they could always exist, or the universe had a first moment, and then I could just say that, you know, they had those properties in the timeless state of affairs, and they have those properties in the timeful state of affairs. And there's just no issue there.
But there's no source of the state. There's no source of the matter. There's no source of anything.
Yeah, it's just how stuff is.
But you don't have any reason to believe that. So that's just as much of a faith-based assumption as God would be.
I don't figure how that's the case. I mean, like, certainly saying that things are a certain way and they have these dispositions, that requires fewer assumptions than saying that they are this way because there's a God, but we now don't have any explanation for why God is the way that he is and why he made them this way.
I would think there's a few more assumptions baked into your worldview than you're admitting there. I mean, you're saying that something comes from nothing.
Well, no, I'm not saying that at all.
Ordered.
Not saying that at all. To be clear, I don't think that there ever was nothing. So.
Okay, so there was never
nothing. There was never a state of affairs where nothing existed.
Was there always something physical?
Yeah.
Okay. So something has always existed.
Yeah, or
So
timelessly
matter-
existed, but sure.
Timelessly existed. Okay. That seems just as mystical and faith-based as believing in God. I mean, what leads you to the conclusion that there's no origin to anything?
Well, I don't know what you mean by there's no origin. Like either the
There's
universe
never
has
a beginning point of matter.
Well, I wouldn't say it's faith-based because we've never seen such a thing, right? We actually have good reason to think that like it's impossible to have fields, the way that we talk about matter is in terms of quantum fields these days. They have fields that just pop into existence. Like that actually seems to like contradict the way that we understand physics these days.
I mean, we understand the universe as we experience it. Like,
right, but so at least we have like some degree of evidence to think that like these quantum fields can't just pop into existence. These things are not supposed to be the kinds of things that can be made.
everything we observe was made. Like, we know the process for how it came to be.
Except quantum fields. Quantum fields are like the ground level, and at least as far as modern physics is concerned.
So we understand that everything had a process for its creation, a beginning point for it existing in the way that it does. And you would say that rule continues for everything except for quantum fields. That's when it stops applying.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That seems to be like the fundamental level of reality.
Okay, but we don't have a proof for that. It's just
well, except that like that's what
silence.
Except that's what like the math says, and the math makes really good predictions about the world around us.
The math proves that there was not.
Well, no, like the mathematical structure of quantum field theory is that the quantum fields exist forever. And so like that's built into like the structure of quantum field theory. And then when we use quantum field theory, we make really, really accurate predictions about the world around us. Now, it could be that quantum field theory is like not a complete theory and that there is something deeper, but like we at least have some evidence to think that like this stuff didn't exist.
Interesting. Yeah, I imagine you're way more well informed on this than I am. So I'll have to look into that. But
okay.
I'd like to take the argument to a different.
Sure, go ahead.
If you're willing. What do you think about morality? I think that the existence of, I don't think you can have objective morality apart from a God.
Well, I don't think that you can have objective morality even with God. But generally my view is that I don't think that objective morality exists, period. And I still wouldn't think it exists even if God existed.
You don't think objective morality exists, period, and it wouldn't exist. Okay. I don't know which side of that I want to tackle first. I guess we'll start with why don't you think objective morality exists?
Basically because it seems like if you want to say that objective morality exists, then there needs to be like some fact of the matter that if you deleted all of the minds, the universe would still have it. And I can't make sense of like where that what that morality would even be about if there were no minds to be doing it. And so it just seems like if you're going to have morality, then it's going to be dependent on minds.
I would say that's God. I mean, God is the mind that, even if he's the only
right. But then it's dependent on God's mind, and so it's subjective. It's subject to God's mind.
It's defined by God.
Sure, but then it's subjective.
It's objective.
Objective means independent of mind.
No, objective means. I mean, it has to be defined by something. It's not like an external force that exists.
Well, that's what it means for something to be objective.
I guess objective relative to us. Like, we don't define it. It's objectively defined by God.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, well, if that's all you mean, then yeah, you could have a quote-unquote objective morality with God. And then but I just wouldn't call that objective in any sense of the word, because it still depends on God's mind. But that's fine if that's how you want to use the word.
How would you term it? What's the more accurate
I would just call it subjective. Right? It would be subjective it would be subject to God's mind, right?
Okay, yeah. I guess just not subjective to us. Like, there is no alternative for it. It's definitively, unchangingly that.
But like, so supposing that God exists, why would I think, like, what reason would I have to do what God says is moral?
That kind of gets into a specifically Christian argument of, I mean, you were created, he has authority over you, and he has every right to bind you to his.
So I don't have free will?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Oh, okay. So then,
I mean,
what kind of will do I have?
Your will is bound. Like, you don't have, the Bible teaches that a fallen man has no ability to seek after God on his own, or no natural desire for God. So you have like a range of options you can choose, but all of them are not glorifying. It's all sinful acts that you can choose.
So just a quick question here. If it were the case that, suppose you were put into a horrible scenario where someone was pointing a firearm at your entire family. It was a really big firearm. Maybe they were pointing a tank at your family or something. And they said, if you don't, let me rephrase. If you don't, I don't know, go grind up some babies and eat their paste, I'm gonna blow up your family. And actually, let's change the scenario a bit. If you don't, so if you don't, how do I want to phrase this to make it poignant? Okay, well, rather than trying to come up with an analogy, I will just talk you through my thinking, and then we can talk about it. Okay, sometimes the situations that you're in lead you with only bad options.
Yes.
Right? We can understand that this is probably a thing that happens in real life occasionally. Like for example, consider like a soldier, right? Your options are either kill this person or kill that person, and maybe neither of them are bad, but like those are your only options, right?
Okay.
Whatever it might be.
I would say there's always the action of not doing anything.
Well, if you don't do it, then the other person dies, right?
Yeah.
So like in either case, like there is a bad outcome, and like you through your action or inaction has resulted in the unjustified death of somebody.
Yeah.
So it seems like that there are cases where it can be the case where there's only bad options or bad inactions, and we would never hold somebody morally responsible, assuming that the bad actions were equally bad. We would never hold somebody morally responsible for taking one of those actions, because those were the only actions that they had. Right?
I would disagree. I think someone should be held morally responsible, yeah. I mean,
well, but not the person that does the thing, right? If the person who does the thing only has two bad options, and then they do one of the bad options, would you think that they're morally responsible for that?
If your option is to disobey God, to do something sinful, like the ends never justify those means.
I'm not talking about God. I'm just talking about like normal society, right?
Well, I say morality is subject to God. I don't think you can discuss morality apart from God.
Okay, so then look, we can just do the trolley problem, I guess, if you want. So imagine that there's a trolley, and it's not necessarily going to run over one of them or the other, but actually what's happening is that it's flipping back and forth between the two, right?
Okay.
It's flipping back and forth between the two, and based off of when you next think of the word elephant, it's going to stop flipping, and then the train will run into that one. Based off of the time that or whenever you stop thinking about the word elephant, it's going to stop, and it'll run over whichever one you landed on. Are you morally responsible for that person's death?
That's a very, never heard that variation of a trolley problem.
Yeah, it's really obscure, right? So basically, you're like it will keep flipping. It will keep flipping until you just stop thinking about thinking about the word elephant. Right.
And this is like something you're informed of away from the scene. Like this is happening elsewhere. And
yeah. So somebody tells you this, and then they drug you, knock you out, and then they hook up the brain reading machine, and then you wake up and this is happening in front of you.
Wow. We're in an interesting dilemma.
Yep. This was actually the plot of Saw 19.
Classic God argument from Saw 19.
Right. But the point is that if you don't stop thinking, if you don't stop thinking, then both of them will die. Because it'll just do some drifting, and it'll drift across both train tracks.
I'd have to think about this, man. I don't have an immediate reaction. It's not, you didn't cause the death, so you wouldn't be held responsible for it because you didn't do the killing.
Well, I mean, you definitely did do the killing if you stop thinking while it's on one person and not on the other.
Oh, you can observe who it's on. You're like,
yeah, it's not like instant. Somebody. It's just like here, and then like 2 seconds later, it's like here, and you know which one it's on, and you know who's gonna die if you stop thinking about elephant right then.
You were not the force that caused their death. Like someone was going to die either way.
Right,
so
but as a result of your actions, someone is dying.
You didn't have the power to stop both deaths. Like death was an inevitability.
You did have a power to, no, you're right. You didn't have the power to stop both deaths, but you are causing the death of at least one of them through your action or through your inaction.
Like a similar parallel would be like a doctor only having the ability to save one patient. Like you don't hold the doctor responsible for not saving.
Right.
Both.
So look. Actually, that's exactly my point. My point is that we wouldn't hold this person responsible.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they didn't cause the death. The death was going to happen.
Well, no. I mean, so like if they just stop thinking about elephant at some point, and it just like they just like it's just random, or if they make a decision and just stop thinking about elephant at now, you wouldn't throw them in jail, right? It's not their fault. There were only bad options. And so it seems like that if you're only given bad options, it seems like that you shouldn't hold a person morally responsible for that.
Yeah, but they're not choosing to kill someone. They're choosing to save someone. It's not like I'm going to take action so that this person dies. It's like these people are going to die.
By saving someone, they're also killing someone.
They didn't choose to put the person on the track, is what I'm saying. They're not morally
responsible. They're not morally responsible. Bingo. So as a result of their actions or inactions, they are still causing someone to die, right? They're still deciding that somebody dies.
It's not like nobody's responsible for the death of that person, though.
I'm not saying nobody's responsible for it. I'm just saying that that even though they played a part in this person's death, they're not morally responsible because they didn't have another choice. And all I'm getting at is that it seems like if the only options you have are bad ones, then you can't be morally responsible for taking a bad action.
I think I would. The difference is like in this scenario, the bad thing is going to happen. Would have happened apart from you if you were never introduced to the scenario.
No, it wouldn't have. No. No, they were put on the train track. By this, like at the same time as the guy put the brain reading machine on you, right?
Yes, this is outside of you though. Like you didn't create.
Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah, and so similarly, God let the evil snake into the garden. He didn't have to let the evil snake into the garden.
That's true.
But he chose to. Adam and Eve didn't want to be in that position with an evil snake.
I don't think you can talk about what they want, but...
Well, I mean, like, there's no reason to think that they would have wanted it.
It's just not something we can say conclusively, so I don't think that's a...
I mean, surely they didn't even know what right and wrong was, so they couldn't have had any malicious intent anywhere. And so it seems like God is the person who put these people on the train track and is also the person who put the brain reading machine on the person making the decision. Seems like God is the one responsible for any sins that we may commit, because he was the one who gave us this situation of only having bad actions.
I would say that it's a logical impossibility for God to create anything outside of himself that is perfectly good apart from him sustaining them in that state.
But couldn't he have just like not let the snake walk through the garden doors?
He could have sustained everything in perfection, yes, but it's not wrong for him to remove that sustaining hand, just like it's not wrong for the person to stop thinking elephant or whatever.
When I think that it is, I think that there's a critical difference here. God is the one that made this scenario in the first place. God is not trapped by some more powerful being that, you know, forces him to allow people to be evil. God made the scenario.
But he didn't cause the evil thing to happen, is what I'm trying to point at.
Neither did the person on the train track, or neither did the person who set up the train track.
They absolutely did.
No.
They bound the person to the track.
They didn't choose at all. They had they were not the cause of a specific person dying.
That specific person is there because they put them there.
Yeah, and Adam and Eve sinned because God put the snake in the garden.
The difference here is that God did not cause like the evil desire, or like
they didn't have evil desires. They didn't even know what evil was.
It's a very technical argument about that passage, but there was sin before the eating of the.
Did Adam and Eve have sin?
Yeah.
How did they have sin?
That's very technical. I mean, we can explore that a little bit if you want.
I'd like to. And the only reason I say this is because like it's clear that they didn't know what good and evil were, right?
It's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is more appropriately like the choice between good and evil. Like it's the idea there is cementing the removal of God's sustaining hand.
Is there like why would I think that it's not just the tree of knowledge of good and evil?
Why would you think it's like symbolic in any way?
Yeah, I mean, like, is there some like textual basis for this?
Yeah, I mean, the whole beginning of the Genesis account, like the entire beginning of Genesis, is very symbolic. But
well, sure. I mean, I would agree with that, but then you can't say that this is a thing that actually happened, right?
Because there's symbolic elements to it, because it's told in a symbolic way.
Well, yeah. I mean, which parts are symbolic and which parts are literal?
That's a very important question. Very valuable discussion, but it would be very in depth. I don't think we're really in a position to have that discussion right now. It would be like a likely multi-hour discussion.
Okay, I mean that's fine. Look, it just seems like just to give another analogy, it seems like if I was like a super good dad, which, you know, hopefully I will be at some point in the future. I'm super good dad. And you know, I'm doing my thing. I'm taking care of the kids, you know, I'm making them lunch for school. And then I I drop off my kids at daycare or something like this. And then I get a phone call from the daycare, or I get a phone call from a friend of mine who was driving by the daycare at the time, right? I get a phone call and they say, hey, you know your cousin who's like really creepy with children? He just pulled up in front of your kid's daycare. I get that phone call and I'm just like, I'm not worried. I think that would make me a bad dad.
The parallel being
God chooses a great daycare for his kids, you know, the Garden of Eden. Great father up until this point. And then he learns about the snake showing up in the Garden of Eden. And he's just like, not too worried. I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, this is like the evilest dude, right? And he shows up in his kid's daycare.
You would not be held responsible for the actions of the evil cousin.
No, I wouldn't be responsible for it, but I wouldn't be a good dad.
If
I didn't do something about that, it's called negligence. Actually, you know, so my wife's a lawyer, but she's currently, you know, she's currently busy, so I can't bother her. But I'm actually pretty sure that in that case, you actually probably would be held, if not criminally negligent, then at least civilly negligent, if like something actually happens to your children.
If you didn't go back and do what?
And like, you know, pull your kids out, or, you know, go call the cops and let them know that like your creepy uncle is like near a preschool or something.
If you knew that your cousin was creepy and you...
Yeah, he was like a registered sex offender with like children or something.
It is...
By the way, none of my cousins are actually like this. It's just a analogy.
It's not your obligation to, you know, perpetually prevent that person from ever doing
it is if you are given it actually probably is. You would probably be held liable for negligence if you, and again, not a lawyer, but you'd probably be held liable for negligence because you knew about it, you knew you could reasonably predict the outcome, and then you just were in breach of your duty of care. You would absolutely be, I mean, we can just go look up the negligence rule statement.
I mean, you could be right about that. There's just
yeah. So for the key, I learned this from my lawyer wife. The key elements of negligence are duty, breach, causation, and damages. So you have a duty to protect your children, right? This is a duty that parents have. It's required, right? You have a duty to protect your children when possible, when feasible. And then, given that you were given information that they were in danger, you did nothing, so you breached that duty. You failed to meet that standard of care that you would protect your children. And you know, obviously your failure to do anything, your failure to get into a car, your failure to do anything about that is, and the damages, the harm was actually foreseeable because you knew who your cousin was. That gives you causation, and then your children actually end up getting hurt, and that gives you damages. So that gives you all 4 key elements of negligence. So you would be held liable for that.
Be held liable for negligence. Liable for not intervening.
Yeah.
In a scenario when you had a negative outcome.
Yeah. It's called negligence.
Yeah. That's a pretty good argument.
And so it seems like at best God is a negligent father.
I am very ready to retract this if I'm completely wrong here, but my initial thought is that God is not obligated to ensure good for his creation.
Just doesn't seem like he's a good guy then. He doesn't care about the outcomes of his children, you know, having good outcomes. Like,
no, I mean, the end good is much greater than staying in the never falling into sin. Because I mean, the joy of salvation is something into which angels long to look, the Bible tells us. So,
but Adam and Eve were angels.
Yeah.
Right. So they just like. So are you saying that the world is better as a result, or that people have, that creation is better for having sin and the possibility of salvation than if it had just been, you know, Adam and Eve and perhaps their children forever?
I believe that
their children's children and so on.
The path, history, and the way that creation is optimized for God's glory. So yeah, it couldn't be better than it is.
Oh, but then if it's about his glory, then he just doesn't care about our well-being.
Well, our ultimate well-being, if we're created for his glory, would be him being glorified.
I don't think that's just what, I just don't think that's what well-being means.
Well, it's not your like well-being as you would define it. Well-being is, the purpose of creation is to glorify God. So God being glorified.
Right. So he just doesn't like if it would glorify God for all humans to suffer for eternity, then that would be, you know, that would be optimal, right?
The question there is asking if God was different than God is. So I mean, it's not really.
No, I'm not asking if God was different. What I'm saying is, if by if by a sheer, like, let's say that, so everybody has a possibility to sin, everybody has a possibility to not accept salvation, right? So, you know, let's just assign a probability to, you know, let's say that there's a 50-50 shot, let's say, to every single person accepting salvation or not accepting salvation and going to hell, right? So, like, presumably, it is God's glory for the people who don't accept salvation to be in hell, right? That is glorifying God.
It is, yeah, God receives glory by judging sinful people. Yes.
Right. So suppose just the odds happen to be the case that every single person was sinful. Then every single person would be, like, you know, tortured in hell for eternity. And that would be the glorification of God.
Well, that kind of goes back to the free will thing. Like, salvation is not a choice that we make. It's something that God does to us.
Oh, okay. So you don't think that so you don't even think that there's any arguments that can convince a person one way or the other, because it's not a matter of a person's choice.
God works, like, through means, so those arguments could be the tools by which God causes someone to be saved. But
so let me get this right. So God will, so from the moment somebody is born, whether they're saved or not, God already knows.
Even before the beginning of time.
Yeah, sure. So then, and yet, he creates people that he knows will be tortured for eternity.
Yes.
It seems kind of fucked up.
I mean, that's a very difficult truth to grapple with, but...
Well, or it could just be false, and you don't have to grapple with it.
Yeah, but I mean, just... it's kind of the point of the discussion, but... I mean, God.
Like, if you're if you're trying to tell me that there is an all-good God, but simultaneously that all-good God is happy to create beings that are going to suffer for the entirety of eternity, and he knows that this will happen before he created them, and he creates them anyway, that just seems like not a good God.
God's ultimate goal,
it seems like actively malicious.
He's not causing them to be.
Yes, he is.
Evil, but
sure, he is.
He doesn't.
They don't have free will.
Cause them to do that. He doesn't cause them to commit the sin.
They don't have free will. Who does cause them then?
It's like I said earlier. I said this a while back, that it's logically impossible for God to create a perfectly good being apart from a sustaining hand, and it's not wrong to remove the sustaining hand.
Look, so who did cause it? Because they don't have free will, right?
It's for anything to exist apart from God's sustaining hand, it can't be perfectly good. It has to be capable of evil, because only.
By the way, that's a whole separate contention. We could talk about existential inertia, but continue.
We started with this. I made this claim like the very beginning of the morality discussion.
No, I understand that, but like it just seems like, what is the cause of the sin?
The cause of the sin is the human desire.
So it is freely chosen.
Yeah, I said this earlier. We have the ability to choose sinful action.
Well, but that's the only ability that we have. We can't choose non-sinful action, right?
Yeah, we're free to sin, however.
Right. So there is no choice to sin. There's just a choice of how to sin.
Yes.
Right. So then who caused us? So who caused us to sin? Period. Not who caused us to choose a specific sin. Who caused us to sin? Or what caused us to sin?
God did not put an evil desire in us. The evil desire is a logical necessity of us existing.
That's going to be weird, but I mean, setting the weirdness aside of a logical necessity for us to be able to be evil, like, what is the cause of? I mean, I imagine that you think that all behavior has a cause, right?
Yeah.
What is the cause of this the sinful actions?
Or fallen desire.
Okay, and where did that fallen desire come from?
So Adam and Eve were the only people that ever had true free will.
They did.
Yeah, they had the ability to choose good and evil, and they chose evil. Like, they were not born in a state of sin.
What?
Everybody else.
Why were they?
Was born
So why were they given the opportunity to choose evil?
Ultimately,
or let me rephrase. I mean, so clearly, like, they didn't. Like, they were definitely manipulated into choosing evil, right?
There's evidence that they were already, like, on that path as is, but
Well, then what was the purpose of the serpent if that was the case?
It was an external factor that accelerated it, but yeah,
That seems implausible to me.
Implausible. That,
like it just seems implausible as far as the story is concerned.
If you really want to go through the text, we could.
We probably don't have time for it.
Yeah, just like a quick point on that. Like the first time the serpent talks to Eve, he asks, "Did God really say this?" Like asking her, "What did God say?" And then she responds with something that God didn't actually say.
Like
So you
not
can
word
see
for
there's, like-
word, or like she doesn't, or she lies.
Like she added commands to it that God didn't really say, which just shows a lack of reverence for God's word. Which I would.
Well,
I
but
would
she
say.
didn't know about good and evil, did she?
Like I said earlier, the eating the fruit was like the complete removal of God's sustaining hand. That was like the concrete. Like at this point, God is no longer going to sustain you.
So hold on, I just got to check this. This is in Genesis 3, right? Okay. So serpent said to the woman, he said unto the woman, yeah, did God say blah, blah, blah? And the woman said unto the serpent, of the fruits of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And so you're saying that that's not what he said.
Yeah, the adding shall you touch it is not part of it.
Yeah, okay. But like, so you're suggesting that this is like her being malicious?
I think it's showing a lack of regard for God's word. And I think a lack of regard for God's word is a lack of respect for God. And I think that shows the greatest commandment when Jesus is asked that in the New Testament.
But they didn't have the commandments yet.
God. Huh?
They didn't have the commandments yet.
Yeah, but the commandments don't change. They're just revealed to us at different times.
How did they know the commandments?
They walked with the angel of the Lord in the garden. So yeah, I mean, it's safe to assume that they were communing with God and understanding his character. So yeah.
Clearly not.
You can have the ability to understand and a lack of regard, like not capitalizing on that. Like I have the ability to understand all the technical arguments you presented earlier, but I just haven't read them, so I don't know them. It's a lack of regard for them.
If God was communicating these things, also, by the way, which of the commandments is being broken here?
When Jesus is asked what the greatest commandment is, he says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Yeah.
That's the greatest commandment.
Misquoting somebody isn't not loving them.
If it's kind of small evidence of a lack of love for God. Because I mean, the desire to sin, if she perfectly loved God with all her heart, like perfect love can never end.
Right. I mean, she could have just made a mistake, like accidentally misquoted, right? She was only human after all.
The legitimate consideration of sinning and the decision to sin shows a lack of love for God. So she never had perfect love because her love ended.
Well, I mean, okay, we should probably put a cap on this because we could go back and forth on that for a while, and I'm already past the time. But all I'm saying is that it seems like if you're saying that Adam and Eve had free will and that they chose the bad, and that you're making the claim that they had this, slightly evil inclination to begin with, why would it be that God would give them the ability to have this slightly evil inclination?
It's a necessity of them being created. They can't be perfect.
They don't have to be perfect to not be able to, lie about what God said. They don't have to. They don't they don't have to be perfect to be moral, to be like excellent moral character. They could be imperfect in other ways. They could be imperfect in like the way that they are born and they will die. They could be imperfect in the way that they will grow old. They could be imperfect in the way that, maybe Adam isn't 100% fertile, or maybe Eve isn't 100% fertile, so they have to try a few times.
I guess I should specify. I mean, I refer to moral perfection. You can't have a morally perfect being apart from.
Why not?
It's just a logical impossibility to have a morally perfect being apart from God's sustaining hand.
What's the logical contradiction?
Yeah, you can't be self-sustaining in perfection and not be God.
What's the contradiction?
The self-sustaining is the key thing.
What's the contradiction?
God sustains all things.
Uh-huh.
If something is self-sustaining, it's not sustained by God.
Ah, okay. So what's the contradiction with a thing is not self-sustaining, but it is still morally perfect?
There's no contradiction. Something could be created perfectly if it's sustained in perfection.
Well, why does it have to be
But
sustained in perfection? Why couldn't it just like not be sustained but remain perfect?
Because then it would be God, because it's self-sustaining.
It's not self-sustaining. It's not sustained at all. It's just.
You said if it's not sustained.
Yeah.
If
Like
it's not
it's
sustained
like
by God or
I
itself,
don't,
it doesn't exist.
maybe we're having a disagreement over like what it means for a thing to be sustained, but like I don't know why like a thing couldn't just like exist without God actively looking at it.
It's just how God is defined according to the Bible. He sustains all things.
Except he stopped sustaining Adam and Eve.
He stopped sustaining them in perfection, but he did not stop sustaining them entirely, or else they wouldn't exist.
So then how is their morality? How is their ability to do good things, which, you know, clearly like people have the ability to do good things sometimes. How is their ability to do good things sustained if God is not sustaining them?
There's a difference between like civic good and like not killing somebody versus killing somebody.
I don't mean like not killing somebody. I mean like actively helping out a granny across the street or something. You know, taking time out of your day to do something good.
It's not perfectly good if it's not done to the glory of God.
That's confusing.
How so?
Well, because like somebody could like go on a mass murder spree and then do it for the glory of God.
But
and that seems like it's way worse.
In accordance with God.
It seems like it's way worse than like, well, hold on. I mean, like various verses in the Bible would say otherwise. But setting that aside, like it seems like
different. That's very, very different.
I mean, I don't know, but it just seemed like it just sounds like you're saying that like that it's just not good if God isn't involved. But like I don't know, like I'm an atheist. Is it impossible for me to do good things?
It's impossible for you to do something perfectly good because.
But I'm not talking about perfectly good. I'm just talking about good. Period.
You can do like you can choose not to kill people. You can choose to tell the truth. Those things are good, but it's not perfectly good.
So why couldn't? And that doesn't require sustaining of God.
It does require sustaining, but not perfect. You're not sustained in perfection. There's different like levels of sustenance. I
have no idea what that means. That seems false.
No, you can be sustained in perfection, or you could be sustained in imperfection, or you could be sustained as imperfect as sinful as you could possibly be. Like there are different levels of God's grace that he gives to different people.
We're not talking about grace. We're talking about whether God's hand is there or not.
Yeah, the sustaining of God's hand is grace.
Is the hand there or is it not there?
It is there to different degrees. You can.
What does that mean?
Varying heights is the idea here.
Oh, okay. That's very perplexing to me.
I'm not sure why.
It seems like that the notion of sustaining was pretty binary earlier, but now it seems like it's a gradient.
Well, earlier I was saying sustained in perfection, and now we're talking about sustained in imperfection. So you're still sustained in that way. It's just you're no longer sustained in like moral perfection.
So Adam and Eve were not sustained in perfection?
For a time in the garden.
Well, from their moment of creation, they were not sustained?
Say that again?
From the moment of their creation, were they sustained in perfection?
Not perpetually, but for a time.
When did they stop being sustained in perfection?
As soon as they began to sin.
Well, how did they begin to sin if they were still sustained?
It's kind of like a simultaneous action. Like as soon as they go from imperfection, like you can't go from perfection to like mediocre and then imperfection. It's like if it's not perfection, it's imperfection.
But now I'm just really confused as to how this works. Like it seems like if they were sustained by God, there's no action they could take that would let them sustained in perfection by God. There's no action they could take that would let them do sins. They couldn't even think bad thoughts, right?
Yes.
So how did they do that? So it seems like God removed his hand that allowed them to think bad thoughts.
Yeah. That's what I've been saying the whole time.
And so it just seems like that this is God's fault again.
It's not wrong for him to remove his sustaining hand. It's not wrong to take away grace. Grace is not deserved or merited by definition.
I mean, look, and maybe we can just call it here. But like, in my view, if the only thing keeping someone from being tortured for eternity is someone's sustaining hand, I think that it absolutely is. It is a moral duty to sustain the things that would otherwise get tortured for eternity.
Just like a real world obviously not to the same degree, but real world example, like if there is a person who's like, you could give them, you could fund their lifestyle, but as soon as you stop funding their lifestyle, they're not going to work and they're going to plunge into homelessness and they're going to die. Are you morally obligated to fund their lifestyle so they don't become homeless and die?
So to a certain extent, yes, this has legal precedent in the form of alimony.
Someone like a general principle, there are people that if they were not sustained, they'd fall into homelessness and die. Are you obligated to sustain them?
So when there
Not
is an
something that you made a commitment to.
So I mean, to some extent, yeah. Like you'd have to look at like, you know, whether this is negligence or not. You'd have to look at whether there was a duty or something like this, whether there's an expectation and so on and so forth. But like, if the like, it seems like in this case, yeah, there definitely would be, because
I don't think there is a duty to.
If it costs God nothing, right? Because obviously it doesn't cost God anything. If it costs God nothing, and he created these beings in this scenario where unless he sustains them, they would end up in, you know, hell for eternity. He created this scenario, or at least unless he sustains them, there is a reasonable possibility that they will end up in hell for eternity. Then yes, it does seem like he has a duty to protect them from that.
I don't think you can say that God is bound to his creation in any way, because then his creation has authority over him.
Well, it just sounds like that this God is not good then. Like this God is just negligent, right?
It's not negligent because he's not neglecting a duty. He doesn't have a duty. His duty is to bring glory to himself.
Oh, okay. So he's selfish?
It's not selfish. He deserves it. He's God.
It doesn't seem like he deserves it to me if he lets people suffer for eternity. Doesn't seem like that's somebody worthy of glory.
You don't give all of your money to those people in need.
Right. I didn't put them in that position. Right.
There's not a moral responsibility there. God is not required.
If I put them in that position, there absolutely is.
Your consumerism has an impact on them being the way that they are.
But for me existing, that situation would still exist for them. If I didn't exist, that situation would still exist for them.
Yeah, that's a good argument. That's a good point. I see what you mean.
Man, I should use negligence. I need to talk to my wife about this because I want to make sure I'm not using the negligence wrong. But like negligence is a pretty, like it's like because we all understand it, right? Like we all like get this idea that like you can be negligent. That is like a moral failing. But look, Grayson, I am gonna let you go because I'm like 35 minutes over. But thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Just real quick, like, did I seem just like belligerent and?
No, you seem like a normal guy.
In this discussion.
You seem like a normal guy. I mean, like there are some things that like I don't understand how you could believe those things, but like you seem like a normal dude.
What is the biggest catching point? Like,
it was the moral thing. Like it just doesn't make sense to me that like you can imagine that something created somebody to be in a situation that they end up in hell and then not see them as being responsible.
Okay, so do I just need to articulate that better, or do you think it's just flat out illogical and there's a part I need to analyze?
I think that it is. I mean, it depends on how we define things, but I think that it's probably a contradiction.
Okay, is there any like specific premise that you think I should look at, like where my argument fell
Yeah,
apart?
just so what I would offer is I would suggest that you try to come up with a useful a definition of good that is applicable kind of universally, and that is a useful way of like describing what things that you and I would call good, and then see if you can work that into this idea of like a God that creates something to be tortured. And maybe you can, but like that's the, like, if I'm talking about like a thing being good, I don't think that there's any definition of good that I could come up with that is like meaningful in like the normal sense, that is consistent with, oh, it's good to create something that is going to be tortured for eternity. That seems like that's inconsistent with any definition of good that any useful definition of good that I'm familiar with.
Okay.
So I mean, like so, you know, somebody in the comments said read meta ethics, and that's probably true, but like it's not like I read meta ethics, so.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed the conversation. Hope it was productive for you and your audience.
I think it was a good one. Thanks for being here, Grayson.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Take care.
Have a good day.
All right, let's read some super chats and then we'll call it a day. Before I do that though, consider becoming a member. If you become a member on YouTube, it's like $4 or $5 a month, depending on which channel you become a member on. You get access to all of the emojis and you get access to my debate notes. And my debate notes are handy, especially if you ever get into any of these arguments and you want to hear the kinds of things that I talk about. Also, join the Discord if you're 18 years or older. Go to discord.gg/drblitz. All right, let's read some super chats. From Ereboros with the $5. Doesn't the axis of evil put pressure on the Copernican principle and leans towards a creator? Putting pressure on the Copernican principle has nothing to do with the creator. It does put a little bit of pressure on the Copernican principle, though. That's true. From Preston Devaney with the $5. Theists love to straw man, quote, you believe something came from nothing, when that's literally what they believe. Well, they don't believe it came from nothing. They think it came from God. But it is true that often theists will think that atheists think that something came from nothing. From Binary Ghost with the $5. In the many trolley problems of life, I always pull the lever. Always take an action, even if it causes more suffering. Not taking action is for cowards. Ooh, really? And from Devil's PD, thank you so much for the $20. Then the Lord God said, quote, see, the humans have become like one of us, knowing good and I mean, cementing the removal of my sustaining hand. Yeah, like, look, I didn't want to go into all the details about it because it's a long conversation, and he should probably have that conversation with Justin anyway. So if you're still here, Grayson, go talk to my buddy Justin. He's more than happy to have a very, very deep biblical discussion. He's very, very knowledgeable. He knows biblical Hebrew. So he's more than willing to have that discussion. It's just probably not the right place to have it here. From Devil's PD again, God didn't even tell Eve about the tree. If we're just going by the book, he told Adam before he made Eve. That's a good point. And from Doomed Daisy for the 100 Norwegian kroners, would love for you and him to talk more about this in depth. Watching this debate has been so enjoyable and interesting, especially all the points he makes and when you counter. Love from Norway. Well, thank you. Maybe he'll come back on another time. Oh, Justin will be live today. That's good. From Lou with the 5 Australian buckaroos, appreciate you. Well, I appreciate you too, Lou. From Binary Ghost with the $5, all this talk just makes me think that this concept of God is just Plato's theory of forms. So then God is perhaps the realm of Platonic ideals. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap between Christianity and Plato. From Brian Peck with the $5, a perfect being who can perform imperfection sustenance, which allows being to perform evil actions, so God creates evil by his own will and actions. God creates evil by his lack of will, don't you know? From a Dwayne Warren with the $5, is allowing suffering always equivalent to causing it? If you have a duty to prevent suffering in a certain way, and then you allow that suffering, I would then say, yeah, it probably is equivalent to causing it. From Nathan Irvine, but just to be clear, actually, let's go back. Just to be clear, allowing suffering isn't always equivalent to causing it. It just sometimes it is. From Nathan Irvine with the $10, are the Aztecs in hell because God never talked to them? It depends on which Christian you ask. From Binary Ghost with the $5, the Gnostics had a pretty good answer for why God would make a world full of torture and pain, but they were considered heretical. Indeed, a lot of the heresies actually make a lot more sense. And from Eric S. with the last super chat, if God has no moral obligations, we have no reason to trust his words. He could lie to humanity about anything and be perfectly moral to do it. It's a good point. I mean, right, this is the question, is what obligations does God have as a moral being? Like, it seems like God doesn't have an obligation to, you know, prevent egregious suffering, right? So I don't even know what it means for God to be good then. Anyway, let me just double check, make sure they don't have any cash apps or anything. And then we'll call it a day. Oh, we did. We got from Friedelzom, or Frieldazum. Thank you for the $15. This person sends, why are you an atheist and not agnostic? In my opinion, we can't prove that a God exists or not. I love physics and want to study it next year, but I'm still in high school, so I could be wrong though. Love your content. Do you also have any tips on how to be sure physics is something for me? Because I'm still doubting if I have the capacity and if my interests are going to stay the same if it gets serious. So I'll answer both. I'm an atheist because the arguments against the existence of God are more compelling to me than otherwise. That's it. I'm just more convinced that there isn't a God than there is. Now, I'm not saying anything about certainty. I don't think that you have to be certain. I don't think that you have to have 100% proof to be an atheist. I just take you have to be convinced. That's all. And regarding your second question, any tips on how to be sure that physics is something for you? Well, you can always start with it, like in your first year of university. And if it's not for you, it's not too late to change. At least if you're in the US. If you're in the US, you can change pretty early. I don't know where you are, but yeah. So unfortunately, the answer to this question depends on where you are. But thank you so much. All right, y'all. I'm gonna end the live here, and see you guys probably Sunday. Take care, everybody. Maybe I'll hop by somebody else's live tomorrow or today.